got a quorum. So, did anyone have any issues or comments regarding the minutes from the last meeting in April? Nope. Nobody's on. Okay, motion to accept the minutes from April 14th.
So moved.
Second. Okay, minutes are good. Next meeting is June 2nd at 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. Again, unless we come up with a really involved agenda, but it should be good. Correspondence, there was, just before the last meeting, Skylar was contacted by Mr. Holman regarding no wake zone at the Island Boatyard, Manantee Creek entrance. And I guess there are two primary issues. One is general impact on boats and properties in the area. Then there's the impact on his own property. I think, Al, you said you noticed that there are two more 5-mile-an-hour buoys there?
Yes, but I think I was told that they're in the exact same spot where they had.
Oh, they weren't.
I thought they were further out, but.
They're still further out? They're not near green 1 and red 2? Is that? No. Okay. Well, it sounds like it makes sense to move them in closer.
I think out farther is the point, right? Out
farther.
Closer to the point, yeah. So that, basically so that people are slowing down further away from the entrance. Is that a big deal to move those, Bo?
So the way the town code is written currently, Manantee Creek, its entirety is a 5-mile-an-hour zone, right? It's a no-wake zone. So although the approach buoys are way out in the middle of the harbor, sort of in a way, right? 1, 2, Manantee Creek 1 and 2 are pretty far out into the harbor. That, I guess, technically delineates the mouth of Manantee Creek, right? That's the head of, the beginning of that navigation for that particular series of buoys. So, arguably, we could lawfully move them out. I would say, as far as those 1 and 2 buoys are, I'm not quite sure that's what we want to do. I'm not quite sure that's what we should do. It's going to create an immense amount of confusion in the area. Number one, just because you have these 2 wake buoys that don't necessarily require somebody to be transiting by 1 and 2, like lots of people don't go by buoy 1 and 2 to get into the approaches for the Creek proper. So the other thing is more, I guess, philosophical on my part, which is not quite sure why we would take unilateral action based on the assertions of a single individual that would impact all of the other users on that waterway without, due regard for the severity of the problem, what's actually occurring. I've spoken to the individual a couple of different times, who suggested he have conversations with the board, with WMAC, to at least air, the grievance, if you will, and document, obviously, that he feels there's an issue. He's been instructed multiple times to report to us, to the police, if there is a situation that is unlawful or unsafe or otherwise concerning, again, to document this issue that needs to be addressed. To my knowledge, I'm not sure of a single time, maybe one time, that has actually occurred where he's documented something like that. So I don't dispute that he believes there's an issue or anything like that. I would just urge a little bit of caution in just acting solely on one person's perception of the problem.
Have you heard anything from the boatyard? Do they have any issues? No. Jessica, can you pull up West Nick? You can just get on.
not close, provide. You gotta go like southeast.
Yeah.
There we go.
This is the general area that we're talking about, right? And can everybody see the maps there?
Yep.
So, 1 and 2, Unitic 1 and 2 are somewhere way out here, right? So, as you can see, there's a lot of area that would then generally be
Yeah.
potentially impacted, right? Why are we seeing these two markers? We could use more markers, hypothetically, not that I want more stuff in the water to get run over, but it's a theoretical possibility. Right now, these two markers are somewhere, the two 5-mile-an-hour markers are somewhere in here, right? They're about halfway between the entrance 1 and 2s and the little spar shaped 3 and 4s, very, very narrow little ones, which are up close, real close to the bend in the channel by the island where we are, right in this general area up in here. So the property in question is this location over here, on the left-hand side of the screen.
Right.
And he's not incorrect in that, 5-mile-an-hour buoys being in this general area means the vessels are transitioning from either full displacement to planing or from planing to full displacement in and around the front of his property. Those are the 2 points at which all hulls make the most turbulence in the water, as we know. So he's in a unique situation, without a doubt. He hasn't really asserted that there is any unlawful activity as a result of that specifically, just that people appropriately coming off plane to slow down results in, a disproportionately high frequency of increased wakes in that area. So, again, we hypothetically could move that out, it would increase the distance from his shoreline where those wakes begin, but they are still going to be generally proximate to his property. He's gonna be the closest property to them, no matter where they go.
The further you push them out, the further they don't really do their purpose, because nobody's using, like you said, those two.
Right.
Everybody's coming across.
I mean, I ran 42 footers out of there, 44 footers out of there, and I never once went around buoy 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Nor was I on a plane in that, at that point, but, it's definitely worth paying attention to and noting and trying to keep a better handle on it. If we feel like as a town, it's a good idea to move them out, we can certainly move them out, we're within our legal mandate to do that. But it will have the further out they go, the more of an impact it will have on other users as well.
Yep. Can I ask a question in this
Yeah.
setting? When you're saying it's impacting people, it's like water sports or is this like general navigation?
Well, just all of the use of the area, right?
But who
So-
are you worried about it impacting? Because like if someone's gotta like slow down a little longer going in, that seems pretty reasonable. Yeah,
And that's fine. I'm just talking about an impact on all of the other users.
Right.
Regardless of what their purpose or intent is, if they're just transiting the area, it's just a new burden on people who otherwise aren't necessarily doing anything to contribute to the issue.
Well, but I think, maybe if you just moved them out a little bit you can see where the channel is. Yeah, people come roaring in there, and then slow down right there, it is the channel into, maybe a little bit further out, not past the second set of buoys, the 3 and 4, I guess, right?
Now, 3 and 4 are the little spars right off the dock.
Because
There's
there's,
only 4. It's 1 and 2.
okay, all right, so,
And they're.
so maybe just bring them out kind of abreast of his point,
Right.
and enough so that people see them and slow down before they get right there.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think it would hurt anybody, it wouldn't hurt anybody tubing or whatever, and
So to move this along, right, so we're not spending time on this, if that's the opinion of the WMAC, I would request that you guys send a memo to the police department asking that, and then we can move it forward that way.
Is there any particular standard that you use to come up with the location in the first place?
Yeah,
What is,
same spot they've been for the past 35 years.
But I mean, so 35 years ago, was there a, hey, this is the spot? No, okay. Just, okay.
So I don't know what that distance would be from where they are to where we would be comfortable. Is it maybe another 50 feet or is it 100 feet?
Why don't we look at it? Why don't we look at it?
I mean, I think we need to put the real points on there.
Yeah, I'll pull the actual coordinates up for the next meeting if you want.
Yeah.
I'll have it on there.
Let's do it that way, because we're just shooting in the
I think that
dark.
makes
In the meantime, if I ever get a boat in the water, I'll go look at it.
Yeah. You got a bunch, you can.
And I would think that asking the marina what their opinion on it would be, and if it would impact their business, I think that should be a factor.
Can't imagine the impact.
Well,
Well, they might have an experience of getting big rollers coming in from irresponsible users.
Right, well, yeah, that could be, but I
Right.
mean, it's not,
Right. I don't
it
know.
takes another 5 minutes for somebody to get in, which it wouldn't.
They're probably the most aware eyes we're gonna get. It's probably Boatyard.
I'll talk to them. Okay, and the other part of it, as far as, there was other issues that came up in emails about access to the beach. I mean, that's a town, that would be more of a town issue. Meg mentioned something about that, what's collecting there, that point.
This thing?
Yeah. That seemed to be another issue that came up in this whole conversation, but it's beyond what we're interested in, our purview, anyway.
Tom had mentioned the addition of sand.
Yeah, well, if you look at the, I guess, the northwestern point of where the sand is rolling around that point there, that one dock there that's right there, it's actually getting pretty close to being because of the drifting sand, so.
That's like the email you sent. It showed the stand really close to
Probably
it.
going to come up when
Right.
that person wants to get their dock dredged or whatever. That is, obviously, we have a migrating sand problem there. And I mentioned in an email, I'm not sure about the hardening of that shoreline. That's not for us necessarily, I guess, that's more for somebody else to look into.
Or someone else to raise a point about
If
it anyway.
that's a bulkhead or a revetment, doesn't it usually come before you guys?
Yeah, but there's none there now.
Well, there is, yeah, there's a rock wall.
He has like a stone bulkhead thing.
If you read my response.
Yeah, I read it. I
I'm
did,
not
but
gonna
I
say
think-
anything, but it does look homemade.
It's actively under construction every single day.
Right, that's
Well, I didn't see that. It looks, it appears that
One
way.
little barrel at a time.
Well,
Yeah,
Ron,
those are the other issues that I steered to the town board. I don't know that we don't have an application to do any work there. We're not aware of any work being done there. All right, so we'll get the locations of those buoys and I'll talk down in Boatyard, see if they have any issues. The other piece of correspondence we got in was from the County of Suffolk on the Department of Public Works. Al, you had recused yourself on
I
this?
recuse myself from certain issues for this season.
So if we're going to have a discussion, I guess you got to leave the room. I don't know if there's much of a discussion. But it's really just, they're looking for us to provide them with a priority list of the public waterways that might need to be dredged. So I don't know if anyone.
This comes up every year, I guess, they're just asking for the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, we have the same list
Yeah.
that comes up. Have you guys
usually does it.
talked at all?
Oh, we talked briefly, just that I might try to learn and help and not much past that, yeah.
Well, if there are any points, issues that anyone's aware of, we should notify them before May 28th.
One thing I can think of is the Crab Creek entrances. Has anybody seen them lately and seen how that creek is doing? I know that it's been,
It's
the
moved.
last 4 or 5 years,
Yeah,
it's been moving, the old one
bounce around,
closes,
yeah.
the new one opens.
There was two of them at one point.
Yeah, Jim Colligan used to keep us updated on what was going on there, but I don't know whether there's any
But that's,
reason to look at it or even,
it's not a dredge, I don't think it's traditional
It's,
dredge site.
it has been privately dredged,
oh, that was a private.
privately dredged, okay?
So this is a public thing we're talking
This
about.
is-
This is purely public benefit dredging.
There is a list of about, I don't know, 5 to 8, 10 projects that the county has on like a 10-year program. Right? And that's what this involves. And it involves typically us, the Bay Constable, Town Engineer, and Highway. All right, those are the people that input what we have traditionally asked of the county. And I know that there's some misunderstandings about the difference between what private dredging is and what public dredging is. And I've been called to question on this. And that's the reason that I'm just backing away from this until it gets clarified.
You asked to speak to the town board. Have you made that, have you sat down with them
Yes.
to discuss it?
Yes, I have. I have. And I was told I could go back to the BOE for,
Well, no, this is not on your Board of Ethics issue. I don't want to get involved in that. I'm just talking about, you said that didn't involve your Board of Ethics issue. It's not why you recused yourself.
it's a long story.
All right, so let's not get into it tonight.
Okay,
Just you talk to the town board,
Okay.
straighten out whatever conflicts you think you have, or they think you have, or whoever thinks you have.
right?
We know what the Board of Ethics said as far as what you can't get involved in. It was said private basins, that was it. So,
Right. And
Let's figure out what-
And that was an opinion. That was an opinion.
well,
So,
it's an-
I guess I'll share, I mean, so it was in response to my complaint.
Okay. Thank you for saying so.
So what I will do, because it seems like you're saying it's confused, it's important for the committee. I'm going to share the opinion with the committee so they can decide.
I would ask you to hold off on that because the committee is reviewing it. They made that judgment in my abstention. So I didn't really have a chance to speak to the issue.
Neither did I.
Okay, but
They-
whatever they did,
Okay.
they made up.
But see,
They-
well, it's confused right now. It's affecting the committee's business. The committee has a right to know. And you've raised it again. I was prepared to let it slide. Board came out with their decision. I was going to let it go. They raised the point, or they made a determination on part of my complaint.
Mhm.
So now you're making it an issue. I want to go back to it. I'll share my complaint. And then everybody can decide what they think about the complaint as well. I wasn't going to do that before. We've decided it's an issue. I think everybody should actually feel that. I mean, or hear that.
Well, then everybody should hear my side as well.
Sure. Well, they've heard it, I think.
What's that?
Which committee are we talking about? We're talking about the ethics committee or are we talking about this committee?
we're not going to litigate this thing here tonight. There's been a decision, period. That's where it stands now.
Right.
If it goes beyond that, it's not for us. It's, you two can bring it to the Board of Ethics to deal with it. But at this point, we have a decision. Based on that decision, you've recused yourself. So now you're not involved in dredging issues. So that's what we're concerned about. And that's why I've asked Skylar to work with you, because now you're out of pocket as far as dealing with dredging issues, which are before us right now by May 28th.
Right.
So those are our issues.
Okay.
Just that there's an opinion in the Board of Ethics, and that's what we're dealing with. Whatever goes beyond that, if you want to go back to the Board of Ethics, that's not us. That's not our issue.
I have gone back to, okay, and just waiting and pending their decision.
Did you go back to them as well?
No, I will now. I wasn't going to before.
All right.
I hesitate to ask, what was the complaint?
Well, I'm happy to share that. I think it's not, we're talking about correspondence now. So the correspondence I got was the determination. I think you can put that on the agenda for future conversations. But I think, and I think because it's relevant here, I received it. It's now, Allison's using it as sort of, we're talking about the dredging issue. I think it's relevant for everybody here in the committee to see the decision because it affects what we do. Outside of that, I think that's not necessarily relevant for this particular conversation, talking about correspondence.
Does the decision,
I'm happy to share it with you.
does the decision reiterate the complaint?
Part of it, but not exactly.
Does anyone on the committee care to hear the complaint? Or,
I don't
Relevant to what we're about to
necessarily
do.
at this time. I think that it's just bogging us down here a little bit. But when it comes forth, the final whatever, but then at that point, yeah, maybe we should find out what's going on. But until then, it's not really in our hands.
Right. I mean, I'm happy to share it. I just don't think it's right now is the time because we're talking about other stuff. We got a big agenda. But I can absolutely share it. It's not an issue.
hey, so correspondence, wow, we're up to number 3. So let's see. Anything to add from liaisons? Anything going on? No? And you
Al,
guys,
just for the record, I don't know of any conversation that you had with the town board. If there was, I was not a part of it. I don't know what you were referring to.
Okay,
Myself, I can speak for myself.
okay.
Yeah, my only knowledge is that you asked to speak to the town board, and we referred you back to the ethics.
Okay. I asked the town supervisor that I would, I wanted to appeal it. I wanted to appeal the decision. Okay. She spoke to the town attorney, and then she came back to me and she said, you should ask the ethics board if you could have it re-reviewed. Since it was,
well, so you're going to have a re-reviewed.
yes.
Okay, so that's where it's at. And you don't have any other,
And the ethics board invited me back to a meeting. The meeting that they had, and they came to the conclusion that they came to, I was in surgery and I couldn't attend the meeting. So, I mean, that's, and they came up with a conclusion that,
Sure, we should be.
yeah, I mean, we really shouldn't, I'm trying to,
The ethics board?
okay. Okay.
What you said about you going to the supervisor, that is my understanding of it.
Okay,
But the only involvement of the town board was to send you back to the ethics board. And we don't even,
okay,
I didn't even know you met with them again.
okay,
I don't want to know.
okay. Okay.
right. Oh, did you have anything to?
Yeah, just quick, I wanted to, I told you guys at the last meeting, I would follow up with the county regarding the oyster lease program. I did that, although not to the point of exhaustion, although I'm tired of reading about it, but. So I spoke with the program manager, this is a fellow by the name of Tom up there. He provided a lot of information. There are currently 5 active leases within the township. They are leased by 4 individual entities or organizations, if you will. So one has 2 leases. There are 5 additional lease sites that are within our jurisdiction that are not currently actively leased, but hypothetically could be, or they're, I think his words were, in consideration for the next lease cycle. So I'm not quite sure what that means. There is an interactive mapping tool. I think it's run on the county's GIS site that allows users to see the confines and the structure, shape, if you will, of these leases, from a satellite sort of standpoint. I can share that.
I've seen before.
What's that?
That map that I've seen before, both sites on it.
Probably, yeah, it's probably some version of that, right? They probably like screen grave something just to have, something that you could materially look at. I can share that site with you guys. I'll send around an email if anybody's interested. It's a public site, anybody can see it. And that has like the lessees' names on it, but there's not any contact information. We're not privy to any of that information unless there's some lawful reason to compel it. But that's sort of the update that I have. I have not actually gone on the map and I haven't really gone through some of the finer details, but I think that generally covers most of what the questions were, right? Like how many sites there are, there's 10, 5 are active, 5 are in consideration. So that's what I have for you right this second for that.
Do we know or can find out whether or not the leasees inside the town waters are residents?
They're not.
They're not.
I mean, I looked at all the names and they don't, I know at least 3 of them are definitely not, they're North Fork residents. The other 2 are corporations, but I'm 95% certain they're not, they don't have any residency connection to Shellfire.
The additional 5, are they up for this coming season? or-
Not quite sure, right? So it's their 10-year leases. So it's sort of a rolling cycle, I believe, not on all of them at the same time. As I said, I didn't dig too deep into all of that, but that's as much information as I got up to this point. And then second, regardless of why or whatever, Al has recused himself from the dredging considerations. I've worked with Al and Joe and the DPW on this in years past. So I'm happy to help fill in with those blanks. I'm going to be involved anyway with the county and with the letter and with Joe Fenora, the town engineer. So, if it's easy in the near term or Skylar, if you guys have some thought, suggestion, idea, Crab Creek, fine, right? All of that, the suggestions should really try to fall in line with the guidance that was sent out, right, for the consideration for projects. If it doesn't really check a lot of those boxes, the county isn't going to be involved in it. That's not to say we shouldn't still make the request, right? Crab Creek is not probably going to be dredged by the county. We could still make the request. It is a public waterway, it's a public access, there's
It's not a priority.
shoreline, but it is a next to zero priority level. However, documenting the need, documenting the request helps us moving forward for other avenues that we may ultimately want to pursue or have to. Right? And maybe the county will run out of things to do and say, all right, I guess we will do that. But, right, yeah, it's not gonna happen. But so you can either forward those requests directly to me, or if you want to keep it in-house and have Skylar be like the dredging liaison pro tempore, send it to him and I'll work with him that way. Right?
Yeah.
So other than that, that's all I got for you right now.
All right.
Well, one question.
Yeah.
Going back to the shellfish leasing program.
Yep.
Did it give any insight onto whether or not they're still taking input on the locations they've chosen, how we can complain, and whether or not we can have input on whether it's floating gear or bottom gear?
So there is a way to do that, and they usually send out a notice. The notice has been posted on the board out here. It's been in the news. Right, yeah, it's been in the paper, in the classified, legal sections, excuse me. I don't know if any of those are open for further comment right this second. I'll find out and get back to you. But I have a feeling that the comment period is closed for the ones that were, let's say, up for renewal this particular cycle. But again, I believe it's on a rolling basis, so, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of them were up this year for that process, and 2 or 3 or 4 will be up for that next year for the process. So I'll get an answer for you.
I think that letter comes out every year.
Yeah, it's pretty frequent we get it, yeah.
I mean, I've certainly been involved in some of the comment periods.
Right.
Let's just say they're not interested in your comments. Yeah.
For the most part, right,
Yeah.
That's
how
as
we
an
end up with
individual,
leasing sites at the mouth of Major's Harbor.
Right.
And the middle of
Smith Cove.
Smith Cove,
right.
which are probably the worst locations ever.
So what would be potentially helpful is if there is a comment period open for sites, we don't sort of just file it away somewhere. We actually maybe make an agenda item when it comes out. Is this something that Waterways feels that the town, if you wanted to make a recommendation, that the town board formally make a recommendation to weigh in on it, right? And maybe
Responding to that on a personal level.
Right, right, but it would, as Councilman Dye said, I believe most individual input is probably fairly low priority. But a municipal entity weighing in probably would carry a little more, gravity considering it's within our jurisdictional limits. So they already do a lot without talking to us as it is, so.
It would seem to get that sort of those comments together before they actually come out with proposed sites, because then they can actually affect what's actually going to be.
Right. So I think almost all of the sites are developed now, hypothetically developed. I don't believe that they're going to, because there's only so much bottom land, and they've been doing this now for approaching at least 20 years in the second round of cycles. So I don't know that they're going to be devising new ones, but the comments may affect whether or not they continue to offer that as a viable site.
The other question being, should this be a topic that this committee takes on?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think it is there, but also I'd hate to say this, but commercial shellfishing in town jurisdiction without being a resident. Can of worms.
Yeah, so there's probably some semantics there, right? Because aquaculture is not traditionally regulated the same exact way as commercial harvesting of wild caught product. Worth thinking about, worth talking about. But I expect or suspect that they're probably safe on that line right this second, pending some, legal advice on sort of how to interpret our local law with what they're actually doing.
Because I know that they're required to have a DC shellfish permit.
Right.
And I
along
don't
with a
know
bunch of
whether-
other things.
Yeah, that just seems like there's a big, what's really going on here?
Right. It could be, right. So, well, I'm gonna look into it a little more, get the answer for you, that you're looking for. And it seems like the guy Tom is really, really knowledgeable and
Yeah.
wants to work with people, so I feel like, his first thing he said was, give me a call, and here's my cell phone. So, I think if we have sort of some of those deeper philosophical questions about what's going on there, I think he would have an open conversation with us about it.
Thanks, Paul. As far as my own briefing, very little. Just had some inquiries. So for anyone who's wondering what the shakeup at the Waterways Committee was that was mentioned on the front page of the Reporter, just want to point out it's the WAC, the Waterways Advisory Committee, not the Waterways Management Advisory Council. And yeah, so a different group. I don't know what the issues were there, but we've got our own set of issues, and I'm sure ours are, at least in most places, saltier than theirs. But eventually, we should probably find out what's going on there, I guess. That's it for that. And next is new business. So the first application is Malin. This is. Are you presenting the
I
application?
am, I'm Jane Costello from Costello Marine Contracting.
Okay. Good.
So we are proposing to construct a 5x20 ramp leading to a 5x90 catwalk. And 4 2-pile dolphin tie-ups and 2 racks. So this is a pretty straightforward basic dock. It's 100 feet from mean high water. Pilings and space are only 50 feet, the whole structure is only 50-foot footprint as per town code, so I don't know if anyone has any questions or concerns.
Was there access necessary for this? I mean, do you have to get there through the bluff that's adjacent to it, or?
At this point, they were not interested in doing any kind of bluff staircase.
They're not interested or they don't need.
I think they're using the neighbors at this point, and then at some point they'll think about budgeting that into their plan, but not at this time.
There's not actually any tree cutting involved at that site? Question I had is, these, this is another dock along the bluff shoreline there. We had one come on before. It was opposed, but ultimately passed. And the issues there were exposure, wave action, boat traffic. All the members at that time, that was the SAPIN application, all the members at that time cited this area as dangerous due to exposure, due to all the wave action. That came up during the SAPIN review. It also, when we were doing our dock code review, every member cited that area as an exposed area and an area that wasn't a proper area for a dock or the maintenance of a boat. Also, 4 out of 6 members in our review pointed out that this is a poor location because of navigation issues and the pristine beach located there. There were a number of comments in our notes. Committee agreed that the shoreline is pristine. All members agreed that the location is not suitable for a usable dock. It's pointed out the owner's riparian rights could be satisfied with a mooring. Specifically, that it's a pristine area like Dixon Creek and should not be spoiled by a dock. It's pointed out that the DEC previously would not approve docks in this area, and apparently that's changed. That was a member, that was the chairman at the time, John Needham. Other members, it would be a structural nightmare to permit a dock to run there, to be exist there. But also suggested that someone in that area could utilize the yacht club instead of keeping their boat in a precarious area. So, that would be my opinion on it, and I'll just go around the room and see if anyone else had any thoughts on the application. Al?
Wait till the end.
Well, being that they have no access to get to it, I'm sort of like reticent to think, aside from the other reasons that you mentioned, I mean, if they had, at least the guy next door has a stairway, which maybe I guess that's who they use, right?
I believe so, yeah.
As long as they're.
As long as they're getting along.
Getting along.
Yeah, and I think it was just more budgetary reasons why he wasn't gonna do that at this time.
I know that Mr. Sapin came in and actually went through the reasons why he really wanted a dock.
Yeah,
And subsequently, I've seen him and he's reiterated those reasons. I'd like to hear what Mr. Mallon wants to do with his dock that he can't get to.
he's here tonight, but I mean, I think, Saban's dock is much bigger. It
Yeah.
also went past the 100-foot mean high water, so that was the issue. We had the dolphins or I think it's 7 pile dolphins out there and things like that. Malin was just trying to have like a basic, simple dock to utilize when he comes and uses the property, which I don't think is the same amount of time that Sapin is here. I mean, I think Sapin's going to use his dock to the fullest.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and so I think the use of the property is a little different. I think the needs as far as what kind of boats, how often they're docking at the structure. And I know even the next application is right there as well, and it's slightly different, and this is what's coming in. It's
The
the
less than
needs,
pristine shoreline.
it's the different needs of the actual property owner. Do you know what I
And
mean? That's why, we're not doing a cookie cutter. I would hate to do Sapin's dock, right, 3 in a row, you know, when the property owner is not what they're looking for and what they need of the structure. So this is a much smaller dock. It's not going to impede navigation because Sapin's is out there farther, and I think the yacht club on the other side is out there farther. But it is reaching proper water depth to house 2 boats on either side. And
But you're quite right, it fits the code.
yeah,
Does, you know, but I just question why, is all.
Yeah, so with a structure, with a home or building, if you don't have, I just was thinking about that as far as the building department goes, whether you can build on a piece of property, a home or structure that you don't have access to.
Well, you need road frontage. Or some access for fire to get to it, you know. I don't know how this applies to a dock, but
Oh, neither do I.
it just, you know, it just seems, any of those docks, you have to be in really great shape to use them.
and they can't walk down the bluff.
They can't walk down the bluff. I don't believe. That'd be pretty hard.
I mean, did, the plan. I believe-
Although, it's just an unrelated question. What is going on Bluff Road? It's like a road going down it.
Yeah.
I'm Lori Beard Raymond, and I'm here on behalf of the Children in the Heights Property Owner Corporation. And that's actually not a road. It's owned by the Heights, but both of this property is, on both sides of it, is a very steep ravine.
Right.
So you can't get down there. It can't be a road. It's never going to be a road.
No, I know, I just noticed that something was going on there.
So, and I find that the site plan, because of that, is deceiving, because it's shown as a road, but it's not a road. It's a ravine. So, and there's a ravine on both sides of that property, so you can't go down those ravines.
You can, but.
I mean, there is, as you said, there's some kind of, there's some kind of construction. off of-
Lori, what is going on there?
It's been cleared in some fashion, and there's,
Who is clearing that?
That is actually the Pikes property now.
Oh.
They bought that from Theringer. That's completely separate, has nothing to do with this property. So you got a ravine, you've got Malin, you've got another ravine, and then you've got a bluff. And then where you're talking about the clearing is yet another ravine. That's behind which is next to 3 Bevan, that comes down behind the beach club. So there's actually 3 very steep ravines there if you go and look.
Have they applied to do something there? I mean, what?
There is no application right now. There's no
There's-
application. I guess it was maybe back in 2023. I don't remember. I have to look at the paperwork. There was an application to the DEC to renovate that house and put an addition on it with a pool and a deck and a whole bunch of other stuff. But there was still no,
Renovate which
Nothing.
house?
the mainland house, but there was still no access going down to the beach to the dock. But that DEC permit is still stuck as pending. So I don't know what the issues are, and I've only seen the plan. But there's nothing that's shown or applied to for the town, or the
For
DEC.
Pikes, Theringer property?
No, I'm talking about Mainland, that's what we're talking about. Mainland, to go down that bluff to get to the dock at this time. So,
Even though it's not related, but maybe related in the next application.
I'll
What?
talk about pipe when we get to
Okay.
pipe.
It's in suspense.
Just ask a question. Temper Town, 5 Bluff Avenue. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the access.
Mhm.
Does the Malin family have access to the beach from someone else's property?
Yeah, I think at this point, they are using one of the neighbors' properties to get down to the beach. And so they were gonna just continue that way, even with the dock there, that they weren't gonna get involved at this point, with the staircase going down the bluff. It's not to say that they can't. I mean, if you wanna encourage someone to go do a bluff staircase, take down some trees and things like that, I mean, it's kind of,
They have a very delicate bluff in front of them.
yeah, so I almost think it's better if they're finding alternative ways to get down there, then so be it.
I just want to be clear, I hope they don't think I own the property adjacent to their property.
Oh, that they're gonna use your. That's fine, that's
Why did they
fine.
adjacent? That property is completely off limits.
When you say delicate, how do you mean that?
It's a delicate bluff.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
It's very loose.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand, yeah.
It's very sparse vegetation.
Okay.
It would be very challenging, I think. It's just my subjective opinion, because I see it move a lot.
I see.
And it gets washed out easily.
I'd like to see it right now,
Yeah.
especially where that
It's,
thing that we don't speak about is.
but I won't speak to the engineering.
I have a couple of other questions, if I may.
On Malin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no utilities shown on the drawings that have been submitted. So I'm just questioning, I know that's under the building department, but your new dock application, your new dock code, which I think is in effect, is that correct?
It is, but this comes in under the old one because of its filing
Because there's
date.
no utilities shown. So I just want to clarify, if you're building the dock and if you're planning on utilities, I don't know if they are or they aren't, how are you gonna get them down the block? And as the water supplier, that would be a concern of ours because we would be then requested to supply water to the dock down the bluff and how we didn't do that. So there's a couple of things there that I'm questioning. Maybe they're not planning on any lighting or any water or any utilities. I don't know.
Has an application been made to the
No.
building department for utilities?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. And then the other question I had was materials. There's no materials listed, so I don't know what the materials are being proposed.
There's some decking stuff called out on it.
Yeah, it should be.
At least in this packet, I don't know what you got.
Well, that was actually another question that I had because, no, sorry, that's on the. The only thing I want to point out is that with this new dock, this is just a question, I'm not the dock expert by far, that's what you're here for. But the thing that's also not noted on the site plan is the beach club dock is shown there. But what's not shown on this application is the swim area, which is to the left of that dock facing where this new dock is being proposed. And that swim area is swimming for up to 150 people. That's what our beach club is for. So I'm questioning if there's going to be any wave action in proximity that would be created by bringing these docks in so close to the beach club swim area. It's not noted, and that's not even on the DEC permit, the swim area. So it's a concern, and maybe it doesn't need to be. I don't know. What do you think? That's a question.
You need the swim area, does this?
I mean, I don't think it's any worse than what already exists.
It's probably worse than the dock, but not to rule it out,
It's
but
pretty shallow, so you'd have to be able to come in, you'd have to be coming into the dock to be, depending on what speed you're coming in.
Right.
Kind of go.
I mean, it's fair to consider it. I just would imagine that the thoroughway between it is probably a lot worse, yeah.
It can get very choppy out there, for sure.
Do you mean by the swimming area that extends out beyond the end of the dock at the beach
No,
club? What is the
we go
designated
off
swim
of-
area?
We have a specified by county permit, a specified swim area that gets roped off, just like all the other public beaches.
Right.
It's roped off, and that's the swim area that people swim, are supposed to swim inside of for safety.
Right,
And
but
that's why we have our lifeguards on the beach.
my recollection is that it extends out into the water beyond the dock. Like, so there's the end of the dock.
It does
And the
not,
swim,
it ends at the dock.
it ends at the dock. Okay.
Right, but if you're facing with your back to the shore, it's to the left, which is where the mainland dock would be, because that would be the next, well, it'd be Pike first, then mainland. Right.
We've got,
Just a couple more comments.
yes, please.
Again, I didn't understand what you're talking about. So Mr. Manning wants to build a dock, but he hasn't lived in the house for several years, no one's lived there. So I'm just curious why they want to build a dock. And they also seem to have plans for the house at some point, so I'm just puzzled.
You can kind of see it.
Yes, so I think, I mean, some of these questions might be better answered by Mr. Mayland. I mean,
Yes.
I would just be very, I would just think, his intent is to use the house more often, but, and then if he has, the dock is just gonna add to his enjoyment of the property, but I can't,
I know, you're not in a position.
Yeah.
I'm just raising these questions that the house was sold several years ago, it's been occupied all this time. Now, someone wants to put a dock there, which doesn't quite make sense to me, without actually, well, now they do seem to have access to a neighbor. The other thing I just want to point out is I own property with my niece that's going to be in between both of these docks. We don't have any interest in building a dock, but we do swim there a lot. So my concern is that how this is going to impinge upon our ability to enjoy this beach if we have boats coming in and out on both sides of this. I just want to raise that point.
You also have riparian rights that need to be protected.
Address. Yes, exactly. So, and again, just to bring up something you had mentioned earlier, Bill, this is not a pristine beach, but it is a beach with a beautiful vista. It's been that way for hundreds and hundreds of years. And having the possibility of 2 more docks, and then there's the Reach House, which is for sale, which could also possibly have a dock. And I don't know if the neighbor to the beach club side of the Pikes could also have a dock. And so essentially what has been a really beautiful stretch of beach could be gone in several years. So I also raised that.
Anyone else have any particular comment?
I mean, I have a comment. I mean, it seems like if you have access to the neighbor, that's great. But like 3 years from now, if that neighbor decides to sell, then we have a dock with no way to get down to it if the other neighbor isn't as friendly. It just seems a little short-sighted potentially. And it seems like a variable that they aren't really gonna have control of. So in the future, you could have no access to the dock, and then what? I don't know, that seems a little short-sighted to me, but I don't know if there's a rule against it or not, so I don't, if I'm speaking out of turn, I apologize, but
Well, Skylar, I had the same comment, but it seems like a situation like that would require formal easement across the other property.
Right.
To guarantee access going
Right.
forward.
That would have to be in perpetuity.
Sorry?
It would have to be in perpetuity,
Yeah,
right?
that's okay.
right, so if that's in place,
Easement, file
yeah,
in county records, and then you have access across the property forever to get to the dock. Otherwise, you're granting an
Yeah, I don't see how you can grant a dock.
you could have a non-viable dock in future years, which I guess is what I would be concerned of, because you could invest all this money in this and then lose the ability to use it entirely.
And if I may say, I've thought of that also.
Yeah, if there are background rules I don't know about, I apologize, but yeah.
If future ownership changes.
Right.
Then
I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to be here forever, but that's not the way it always works, you know? Yeah.
and then what happens?
Is there,
Well, we can take it ducks out as well. If a property-
I understand. I don't, it's not like, it's just a little bit more involved, it's just like,
When was the last time you took a dock out?
some more questions, sort of like, so in terms of for access, it goes to this, for access to navigation, is there a purpose for the dock? If you can't get access to the dock, you don't have access to navigation because you have no access, which goes back to the point about having an easement. It's got to be a complete package.
Okay.
That's that bluff, I mean, or that location, I mean, not for nothing, but it's the intersection of Bluff Avenue and Ravine Avenue. And Ravine Avenue, as we've just heard, isn't an avenue, and it's never going to be a road because it's a ravine. So the access, I think, is critical to making it an actual viable structure to put in, you know, to sort of obstruct that portion of the beach of the property. Again, it's a bluff, and it's been that way, and sort of the area's been developed for, what was the heights, 1880? Developed, and there's not been any docks along that bluff for that entire time. And now all of a sudden we have, starting with Sapan, the dock on that bluff. I think that's a concern. That's a significant concern of mine. Is there?
I can, you know, we can table the application. I can talk to Mr. Malin about constructing some kind of access way down his bluff. I just thought it was better that he'd not disturb the bluff and just leave it if there was ways he was getting down there. You know what I mean? But if it's becoming a part that you're concerned about, you know, trespassing or anything like that, I don't think that's what's going on, but environmentally, I just thought it was better not to get involved with the bluff access, because once he does that bluff access, there probably will be some clearing and things like that, so.
In terms of the usage, though, I mean, which guess it goes to, is there a boat that they want to put on this dock?
I believe so. I think there's 2 boats that are, you know, modest in size. I don't have the top of my head. I couldn't tell you what they are, to be honest with you.
Is it space to hold, that would be able to, at the dock, to be able to have them? Or do they actually have the boats somewhere that they actually want to put on the dock? I mean, they're currently, they possess the boats now? Or they would like to have the space at the dock to be able to accommodate
I
the
do
boats that
believe
might
they
have.
own boats. Okay, now I don't know if they're upgrading. I don't know what their plans are as far as that's concerned.
Splashboard systems, are those put in place to, if you put a dock in a place that has a lot of wave action, is that to blunt the effect of that wave action? So does this proposed dock have splashboards?
This one does not.
Does not. Not this one.
And that's because it doesn't go out as far, or?
It doesn't, well, so it's just the basic design of the dock, and it's a straight dock with piling on both sides, so he's coming straight in with his boat. Saipan, for instance, is similar to what Pike is, and that's an L shape. They utilize the inside of the dock, and that's where the splashboard is. They're gonna use the inside, the splashboard will provide a safe haven.
See the pan up here.
The boats probably will be there.
Adjacent properties, right? Yeah.
Than what, Malin is.
And then they're in the,
I think, and the thought that he doesn't use property as much as he does, right? It's your property, do you know what I mean? I think, so, it's gonna be the boats. And then, it's also what kind of, watch they have over their boats and things like that. So if a storm comes in, I have a feeling that they're gonna have another place to keep these boats. Where Saipan and they might keep their boats
More
there.
permanently? Yeah, okay.
All right,
Thing.
yeah, go ahead.
It mentions in the application, where it talks about boat lifts. I don't think this application has one, but the DEC permit talks about setbacks of boat lifts. Is this a part of was boat lift part of the discussion with DEC?
No, that's part of just template wording of the DEC permit.
Because it doesn't show up in other, had this conversation last.
I know you did.
It doesn't show up in other permit applications, so I'm wondering why boat lift is mentioned here. Did you have a conversation with them about it?
It's not even designed for a boat lift.
Okay, so do you want to table it? Should we
I can
just vote on it?
table it. I can talk about bluff access with Mr. Malin, get his opinion exactly what he wants to do as far as that's concerned.
Once you float the easement concept past him, it might be
Okay.
environmentally better. It might save him a few bucks. I don't know. Okay.
Okay, we'll table that.
Thanks, Shane. I guess you're staying right there with Pike.
I just gonna stay right here. So this is Pike, we're moving on to Pike now.
Yes.
Um, This one's a little different, right next door. We are proposing to construct a 5 by 110 main pier leading to a 5 by 27 L at the seaward end. There'll be 70 feet of splash board system underneath. 1 2-pile dolphin, 3 ladders, and 1 bed.
So much more extensive dock than Pike.
It is, but not quite as extensive as Seitan. It's shorter. This meets the 100 feet from mean high water. Pool. But in essence, I think everything else, I think Seitan's L is a little bit longer.
So are the stairs down that bluff, are they existing?
Yes,
What's shown on the plan? So there wouldn't be any tree cutting necessary here either?
Oh,
No. Okay. I ask because the DEC pointed out that basically on all of these applications, between March 1st and November 30th, there should be no tree cutting because of the short-eared or the long-eared bat, I forget which one,
Yeah.
the bat.
Yes.
Yes.
Here.
Let's see. Can we get, Jessica, can you put it up again? I'd like to draw in the 2 docks, if we can just put 100-foot dock in front of 10 and 100-foot dock in front of this 8 or 12.
they're,
6.
Yeah,
6.
6.
Right.
100 feet, yeah. I just want to see what it looks like. I don't know if we get the exact locations. So I wanted to get an idea of what impact this has on the property in between the 2 of those properties as far as setbacks. It doesn't really, it shows setbacks, shows setback to the next dock, right?
shows a setback to the property line.
It'll show the property line setbacks.
Yeah, but I just want to see visually what it looks like if we can do it.
Does this application have splashboards? I think it does.
It does.
It does, yeah. Didn't we do away with splash boards?
Splash boards are, as always, discouraged. And that was in the past and that's in the current code. Yeah, I mean, as far as splash boards go, I would say if Pike can live without splash boards, if Malin can live without splash boards, I would suggest that Pike should be able to live without splash boards. Splash boards are, we've seen plenty of coastal erosion and from splash boards that I'd like to avoid. Scouring, had issues all along the other shoreline on Shelter Island, scouring from splash boards.
You don't like them at all, even if they are designed differently?
We say designed differently from,
Typically, you have to be 2 feet off the bottom, and there's gotta be spacing between the two boards, 2-inch spacings between the boards and stuff like that. If we increase that a little bit, those spacings, are you that?
I mean, everything I've read about splash boards and what I've seen as far as anecdotal evidence is that you can space them. We've got groins where there's big holes and they still create all sorts of impact on the shoreline as far as collecting sand on one side and pulling it away on the other side. So you get a lot of scouring from them. It's, I don't know how much difference a couple inches makes or off the bottom, but when you have breaking waves hitting it, the force gets driven down and just tears up the bottom. And it deposits that sand whatever direction the tide's going at the time. So it's, that's why we discourage splash boards. And I would say if you feel comfortable building a dock in that area without them, then this dock is what, 100 or 200 feet away from the other dock? It's the same shoreline. If we're gonna, it's not necessary on one, why would it be necessary on another?
Is that a design recommendation or a request by the person? Like this, like one has one doesn't. Like, does someone request that, or is that a recommendation from the design?
It's, well, they request, it's a little bit of both. So the design, the purpose of having an L like that is to have protection of the
Right.
boat that's
On the
going to go on
inside.
the
Yeah,
inside.
understood.
And so then the splashboard system will add to that. Where the mainland dock is a straight dock, boats gonna come straight in, tie off, they have tie off piling.
Just dolphin out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like I said, I think the boat will reside here much more days of the summer than what I anticipate at the mainland dock. So they need that, protection a little bit more. I would think that if you're totally opposed to that splashboard system, we're gonna have to introduce some more piling and tie-off ways for him. All that boat thing. So the boat's not banging up the dock.
Understood. Yeah.
Well, do you have a tie off there now? Isn't that the intention, to tie it off?
Yeah, there's just one, just the one, but I can see maybe just having another one.
You could do it with one, but it's like a little more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this other timber dock on the other side? I don't see it on the satellite.
That's the,
It's further along because of the zigzag thing it's indicating. There's big.
Oh, it's way down the beach.
Yeah,
way down.
Way down
Yeah.
the beach, okay.
oh, so 10 is. Well, from my perspective, I basically reiterate everything I said about Malin as far as it being a bad location for a dock, and everything that was said previously about Sapin and why that shouldn't have been approved. So especially a dock of this magnitude with an L, it's a pretty large structure. So and that's basically would be my vote on it, would be not to approve it. Go around.
It meets the code. It met the code for the time that was applied for. And I think we would be, and the person has access to it. I think there's no access issue, and I think on that basis, we should recommend it. We may not like it, you may not like to see it, but that's not what the code says. The person has a right to apply for it, and the person has a right to build it. So I would vote for it.
Being that this particular one does have access to it, with the exception of maybe the splash boards, I mean, the place is a bad place to have dock, splashboards are not gonna make that big a difference, I don't believe. Like certainly from the wakes coming in from boats passing by, it's probably worse than the southwest wind, which I guess they're orienting the splashboards for. They probably signed off on a northeaster, so that the L goes, it wouldn't be good in the northeast of the way that thing is configured, but I guess the prevailing wind being southwest, I guess they're orienting the dock that way to protect it from that. The dock does conform to the code, new and old, except for the splashboards. So I would be begrudgingly in favor of it based on the code. I would reiterate, it's a bad place for a dock.
So you with or without splashboards?
Without.
Yeah, I guess the same issues with Malin. I think it's a bad location. I think I would agree that it meets the restrictions in the code. I don't think it's in the interest of a town to put it there. And that's, whatever, if it's section 19 of the code, I think the town does have that right, that privilege to determine what's going in on town property. And I would say that I don't think it's in the interest of the town to continue to build docks along this, what I would say is inappropriate coast. So I would say no.
On town property? Or
Town bottom. It just.
The dock's on town bottom.
No, it's on state bottom, just
Right.
you guys have jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction, sure.
It's not town bottom, it's a little different.
If it was inside, it would be.
Okay, so town jurisdiction.
I didn't, I'm just gonna, Lori, did you have
Yeah.
comments you want to make before you finalize the vote?
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't.
Tim actually had something as well. I'm not sure whether he was.
I just, mine are really questions. This application also does not show any utilities on the paperwork, so questioning if there are going to be utilities, and if so, how are you going to get them down the bluff? That's a question.
Without sounding rude, does that matter now?
Well, it kind of does, because, those bluffs are all sand.
Right, I mean, but if they just know the answer is like a very hard, resolution in the future, they're not asking for it now, I guess is my feeling, but I do appreciate that it's
Yeah,
impossible to do.
It's just that the new dock code says that, utilities have to be shown on the plan, so I didn't see any. And that was the other question that confused me, is on the town website, there's two applications posted. One says revised, but they're both the same date, and I compared page to page, and I couldn't even tell the difference. So I don't know which one you're even talking about.
It's the same.
Or Ike, there's two.
There's two applications, and one says revised. So, but I looked at both of them, they look the same, but I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, so that's a
Okay.
question for you. So anyway, those were, and then I had the same comment about the beach club with our swimmers, 150 people.
Are the Pikes making another access to the beach?
I don't know that question, that is a different property, it's 4 Bluff. It's not this one that we're talking about here tonight is 6 Bluff. So they have done some clearing, the building department has been over there, I do know that. Stop work order has been issued, I think, or some other paperwork, I don't know, they're before the DEC at the moment. So, but you can talk to the building department, because they've been over there, so they.
When you go down Bluff, if you were uneducated about Shelter Island and it was nighttime, what is this little road here? It's like a spur off of.
It goes to nowhere.
I'm surprised that the Heights has been, so quiet about it.
We've been talking to them about runoff and runoff issues. But
Right, they just plowed right over the side of the road.
You gotta-
Down the hill.
The building, all I can tell you is the building department's on top of that, so if you have questions about that, you should speak to them.
Well, as I was looking at the scene, I took Well, that's new.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it's the managers that sold that
We're
property.
in discussion about drainage in that
It's
area.
draining down there now.
But the building department has been actively involved in that. And I know that I was told that they've applied to the DEC for permits. Permits for what?
I don't know. That's what I'm interested in, seeing what they're doing.
I haven't seen anything yet either, so I guess we'll have to wait until the DEC applications. But that's a different property, that's for, that's,
Thanks. Tim,
okay.
you can just speak up too, Tim.
Yes, I will. I couldn't figure out exactly where the pipe dock is going in relation to our neighbors, so maybe. I shouldn't say it's going.
Going down.
Here's their staircase coming down, so there's a little walk.
Beach Club is.
That's right, this is the beach club. So here's his staircase here. It's gonna be one of this little, I guess, here, for a little. Here, so it's gonna be walking.
It's like right.
This is it.
This is one. That's right.
Or go where you are.
Here, you know, little house here.
So-
Stairs or something there.
Property that the work's going in,
Like right.
they didn't have a permit for, they now it's not going to DEC. That's a lot.
Closer.
Number 4. This is number-
It's not being discussed in this specific road.
The ramp was created to get
But
the
they own
sheep.
both, and
No, I get that.
on the way to DEC,
So-
or at least they know.
On the other property.
On number 4?
Is it relevant? Is that a fair question?
See,
I mean, I understand it's the same owner, they're contiguous properties, but they are different properties.
I'm kind of asking the same question.
Yeah.
Is it relevant? Should we
yeah,
wait and
that's
see?
two lines here.
I don't know why they wouldn't be fully independent, but maybe that's not you.
I do know that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They have wood property.
Right, but it's a separate lot,
What's going on?
and so we can't just move it to a separate lot without proper permits.
Yes. Okay, so now I have a better understanding where it is. I would actually love to be able to measure how far this dock is going to be from our property line.
I can do that,
No, you can't.
sure. Yeah,
Are you
I mean, I can do it.
Are you a contiguous, like you're neighboring that property? Isn't it shown in, is it not shown in this?
Well, there's, it.
You're at 5 Bluff, right?
No, he's
I mean, would you not be the extended property?
he's between the two. He's number 8, right, Tim?
No, 8 is,
Because there's an extended property line on one of these drawings that may extend that.
They could show stuff.
Like this
Right up
seems
on the
to
screen.
imply the other, his property line
So
extended.
the beach club is over here.
I think so, yeah.
And
So I think my guess is it's 30 feet. If that is the correct way of understanding that drawing.
so they close, you know, it's just 20.
Jessica, do you have access to the town GIS system that actually shows the different properties?
oh, 8. Yeah, 8.
It's going around in a circle about, it might be helpful to put that right up on the screen so people can look for, and then.
8 is, Tim owns the property across from his house. No,
I don't know if it's possible or not, but
This is you?
Yep.
This is you?
Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
so you're right next door, so like he said,
About 30
that
feet away.
it's about 30 feet from the property.
you want to see it, or you,
Can I
I'm just thinking,
ask one more question.
we don't-
Is the dotted line running down the middle of the decking, that is the splash board?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
okay, so he's in the mid, and then we're talking
Between them.
about, right now, we're talking about 6.
6 is Pike, and 10 is
And then the ramp, I know
So
where.
Tim's right in the middle.
4.
Because I saw that today, I was like. What is this?
So
So he's somewhere, and they're at 8, and that's where the, okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Right.
So this is going to have a big impact on our beach. So they just purchased a property a year ago next door. I don't see why they can't, if they're going to have a dock, why they can't put that dock, although it's just explaining it, a whole big process, but why the dock then can't be moved over to the other piece of property and as far away from us as possible.
You mean the different address, like that property?
It's
Or you mean like
lot.
four, or you mean the different lot entirely?
Yeah.
Understood, yeah.
It's a different lot.
And I will say that they questioned it as well. So I don't know if you spoke to anybody over there, but,
Who was they? I'm sorry.
the pipe.
The owners,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
got it.
And is there a house,
The one we do is a Derringer lot?
Yes, they purchased
Is there a house on the
waterfront Derringer lot.
on the
The
adjacent
new,
property?
the new lot, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but they just questioned it. They were, and just kind of questioning, but as far as the DEC is concerned, it's in a totally different name. It's a completely separate lot. So I would have to start from square one with the permitting. And then, at best, what he could do, and this is like one of those, it's out of my purview, is to absorb the lots together, merge them. But, there's a whole financial.
Nobody's gonna do that.
Who's gonna do that?
It's the right to do that.
So
They actually do.
Because I put one of my things in my.
it becomes very complicated, but
Merge that,
maybe what of that.
Well, yeah, so I went back and forth because we have vacant things and I just didn't want to
It's
risk
a
that.
difficult thing for him. It's probably more in his accountant's hands than
Yeah.
in our hands.
All right, so is there any other question there? Because we should move on with this.
So, didn't you have 2 moorings?
I know a lot of people that do. I don't know what's allowed. I don't know what's allowed or if they're like historically awarded to them or not, but I know that it exists. And Rose give me 3 because I know people with more than 2
What?
I think you
moorings.
Three more.
You can have
I don't know. I don't know.
You can have 3.
Yes,
You can have
Great.
3?
But not,
On the
but
same property.
not riparian, yes.
so
Not riparian.
Yeah.
the final thing I want to say is the Pikes have lived there for many years with moorings. And they have a little boat that goes out to the boat, or on the boat, and they've been fine for many, many years.
They have 2 moorings there.
Yes, they have 2 moorings there now. They have 2 boats are in the water during the summer.
Moorings on the same property?
Yeah, you could have 3 moorings on the same
On the
property,
same,
in front of the same property,
Same
but only one can be riparian. And
No, but
and
no,
if
but if what, you get more than one,
One,
none can be
then none
riparian.
of them are riparian, but you have to have a boat registered to each one. Those are our rules.
right.
The final thing I'll say again is that we're always talking here about sacred dock came up to many of you at the time, some of you weren't yet, but you were all very not supportive of the location, but you supported the application for riparian rights. And again, what about my niece, the riparian rights, our riparian rights? It always seems to sort of become buried when it comes to someone's ability to have a dock.
Thanks. So, you were up next.
Well, I think it's a bad location, as I stated before. The splashboards were no go on splashboards. And this is one application. There's another one. This whole shoreline's about to become developed. And I think that this is, it's not an appropriate place for a dock, so I'm a no on this.
And Skylar.
I don't really like anything about it, but I don't see why they shouldn't. I'm going to say yes, because we have rules. It complies with all the rules. I think the splashboards are probably up for discussion, but I think I'm a yes on this because, and I'm sympathetic to you. I really am, because I don't want to impact it, but I think we need to follow.
Take this person.
Yeah, no, if we're not following the rules, then this becomes completely subjective every time. So I think we have rules for a reason, and I don't think it's a good spot for a boat, personally, and that's all I do.
Where
for a
are you
living.
on splashboards, yes or no?
Does that get discussed further at this point, or we're making a decision right now?
We're just gonna make a
I
recommendation
mean,
to
if you're
the,
building a dock there, I think you need it. I think the idea of discouraging them is probably a wise one, but it's a bad place for a boat, and you need everything you need to help to do it the right way.
all right, so let me run down this. We've got,
I'm sorry, I said that was my final. It's just that I'm on a committee, I chair a committee, and I'm on another committee, and I know what it's like to be on a committee. Make decisions based on rules, et cetera, but I just find it a little puzzling because this happened the last time where people were against having a dock in that area because it was an inappropriate area, and yet we end up voting for these docks, and I just find it confounding because in a sense, you're encouraging someone to build a structure in an area that you actually don't think is an appropriate place for a structure. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Did you follow the whole saga of the new code revision? That was a giant sticking point. Many of us felt we wanted to put that in there, and it was a no-fly zone.
I know, but
You
it's
know,
just.
I mean, that's, so we're here to uphold the laws, unlike,
Listen, I'm not gonna hold this against you, but I'm just have to say this because it happened
I
last
get
time.
it.
Yeah.
It's that this was an inappropriate place and yet it's a go. So I just feel that it's not necessarily in the best interest of the people who are building these docks to be given permission to build a dock if the committee thinks this is not a great place for a dock, that's all.
Well, you'll be able to talk to the town board, because it looks like they're split here.
I know.
Jessica, let me give you the vote here. We got 2-4 in favor with splashboards. We have 1 in favor without splashboards, and we have 3 opposed.
That goes you one.
You have Elioff as well? Is that you? Jane,
What's that?
do you have the next application as
I
well?
did, I
Oh,
got
yeah.
it.
Oh, good. You've got all 4 of them. Great. Right.
That was Hubert.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you,
Just
thank you.
add one thing, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I'm
It's
a
the same.
resident of the neighborhood, and I understand the rules and how they have the code.
Say your name.
I'm sorry, Lorraine Walker, and I'm at 3 Bluff. So I'm next to the Patel property, and I'm next to the Pike property. And we've been here 4 years. And it's all changing, and it's just concerning because you do have responsibility to us as citizens. You say that Shelter Island is about the nature, the preserves, the wildlife, the beaches, but you're not, you're taking it all away, bit by bit. All of this development, all of these encroachments on the shoreline, the wildlife, us who swim, we do swim in this area. You have to consider that as you make these decisions. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Elioff. So, let's see. Elioff actually was before us in July 23 of 2023. We denied the application because it violated the 15% rule. And it still violates the 15% rule, the new application. It's, so that's section 53-11C1, which the distance from the, to the opposite shore, you take the distance of to the opposite shoreline, and you can't exceed more than 15% of that distance. On this particular site plan, it shows 290 feet to the opposite shoreline. That would be 43.5 feet would be permitted. The dock is 53.5 feet, so it's about 25% overbuilt. However, on the bathymetric map, at the location where the dock, at the spot where the dock is located, which is where you're supposed to take the measurement from, it shows a 250-foot measurement. So 15% of 250 feet, which looks more accurate than the 290, would be a 37.5-foot dock. So you'd be 30% overbuilt. And then the dock also violates 5311C3, where the dock, total linear measurement of the dock should not be more than 1.5 times the maximum offshore distance. So the maximum offshore distance is either 43.5 or 37.5, depending on what you go with. And the total linear measurement of the dock is 83 feet. So you're about 30% over there as well. So this dock is in complete violation of prior code, the one that's here under. So I don't, and it's in a, pretty tight area to have an overbuilt dock. So I would be a no on that application.
You put that up on the screen, Jessica?
So just going back right from the beginning of your statement, the width of the waterway is taken from mean low water.
Right.
So that 15% should go from mean low water. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so 290 feet on the site plan, 15% of that is 43.5. So that part is conforming. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'm saying the dock is 50.
But that's not from low water. Low water, it's 43.5.
15% of 290?
15%.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was just
Took a minute, but yeah, and that's what you're showing. That's
From
exactly
low
what you're
water.
showing, right?
I know what he's looking at. He's looking at, because it goes from a ramp to a catwalk, and I think he's taking it from the catwalk measurement, which a little confusing, but the catwalk is landward of low water,
Right.
against landward of low water, so,
I see that, that's very
So
clear.
it's,
yeah, I see where you meant.
it's inside the L. It's
Yeah.
at 43.6, mean low water to seaward end of the dock. And
The L.
it's the bigger font is
Right.
Yeah,
53.6 on catwalk.
So 53.6
Is the catwalk.
Is the
length.
catwalk,
is a catwalk.
But the
mean low
the
water.
mean low water to the end of the dock is 43.6.
The inner one,
It's-
like inside the basin, you can see it right there. Because that's from the mean water line is what they're saying.
Of the dock line.
I see.
Yeah, it's, you gotta really study it to kind of,
So which property is this? The one with the brown roof? I guess the one that doesn't have a dock.
Doesn't have a dark brown roof, I believe.
Yeah. 10 Coveway. Yeah.
Okay. It's still,
so does that imply that the boat has to go inside? Is that how that works?
What's that?
That doesn't, so that's just the structure, like the boat could then go out further,
Yes.
14 feet, but that's fine, right?
That's fine.
Okay,
Right,
understood. I'm just trying to understand the rule.
right. In some instances, we've limited the
Use of the vessel.
of a vessel that could go on it. I don't know that that's an issue here.
I mean, it seems like it's kind of all the way in, right? Yeah.
you still have the issue of where the measurement's taken. So on your, do you have that in the package, the bathymetric map?
Where the measurements?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on the,
It's
it's on,
No, there's a separate, let's see if it's in here.
The page is not numbered.
Never numbered it.
And sometimes they are. It should be 5 out, I'm sorry, it is numbered. It's 5 out of 8. 5 out of 8. Keep 5 out of 8.
So that's on the site plan as well.
Yeah, it's not the one that was on the,
We've got,
it's not the one I had on our application.
another site plan, the modified site plan, is that what you were looking for?
No, it's the one that came in originally, had showed, on the bathymetric map, it showed a measurement Because this one is measured at the property line. It's supposed to be measured at the location of the dock, and the bathymetric map actually measured it at, we can just do it on, we can do it on the, on here. Do the measurement, but it came out, they indicate 250 feet at, on the bathymetric map. I don't know when that would have been changed.
Bill, you're saying on the bathymetric map measured it from the dock location?
Yeah, it didn't indicate it was a dock location, but it was closer to where the dock is actually located on the drawing. And that was the copy of the plans that we got. Interesting. Online.
Do we see a conflict here? Everything is represented differently.
I'm trying to find what it was I saw online.
From modification?
What part of Elliott?
Is it a different barometric map than that one?
It apparently was because it should have taken a shot of it.
It's like the updated today that had an error, spelling error
I see it.
on it, so that was changed out today.
I think, Bill, this was set in the,
Oh, that's good.
in the DEC portion. There's
Let's look at it now.
this has a 250, you were talking about 250 and it says
Yeah.
250 to opposite shoreline.
That's on the GC.
That's in the DEC one. I believe it's DEC.
Okay.
It might actually,
Right.
yes, it's DEC one. If it's not the Army Corps, I don't think it's Army Corps. No, wait, maybe it is. Yeah, it was stapled to the back of the letter April 27, Amanda Elliott. This one. So the back portion of this. Everybody cares.
Which one is that?
Sheet 5 of 9 in the,
It's in the package, this package, the sub package.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's this one.
it's like, yeah, more than half the way back.
Yeah, it's.
So the dock is, is located on the drawing much closer to the DEC's. That's about halfway between the two, actually.
Jessica, could you pan down to see this area here? So we can see the opposite shore, yeah, there we go. And so it's going from, this is the lot and then it's here.
So can we just run a measurement where the dock is actually located, to get a better idea, since we've got two different sets of numbers here. Dock is about 30 feet, 31 feet in from the west side. Yeah, and just run it straight across the opposite shore. The shortest distance to the opposite shore.
There you go.
I think right, I don't know how.
It's hard to say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
don't know how that works, but
no, it should go, move it to the, yeah, move it over to the other direction to the right. And then, yeah, right around there. Oh, it's right,
Yeah,
right between the two of them. Huh.
it's, we don't know whether that's the, what
It's
what
very
level of the
subjective
tide
what
that
we're
is.
doing.
I think that needs to be more of a survey.
I'd be more interested to see how it is in relation to the other docks.
You mean the line?
Yeah.
To say what?
I'd be more interested to see how the dock line is, you know, I mean, if we're quibbling over,
Yeah.
you know, this is a place you want to keep a boat.
So it looks like it pokes outside that line just a little bit, like that line dissects right through the middle from, right, you're talking dock to dock to dock?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that line kind of dissects right through the middle of it. It's not that far off in reference to that.
No, but 200 and,
What's it? This distance here is kind of,
That's less than,
that's less than what that's gonna be.
it's not 250.
No, it's not. It doesn't seem like it.
It's closer to 280, so it's, the 290 number is probably decent. So we've got, so you're at 40. Your distance is 43 feet on the mean low water, right? And then the only issue is the overall linear measurement is, now let's make sure I get that right. That's from mean high water.
You gotta be low water mark on this. Oh, I'm sorry,
yeah,
disregard that.
mean high water, it's 70.
It's 60, I think 67 feet mean high water to seaward end.
Right.
Oh, it's the maximum offshore distance. All right, so it is going to be different. Hold on. So it's 43. No, it's, well, so the maximum offshore distance is 43.5 feet. So 1.5 times that's 65 feet, and the stock measures 83.5 feet. You've got about 18 feet of too much linear distance.
what is that based on? I'm sorry, I'm just not following.
50, here's the section right here. It's the old code. It's 53C, length and depth. Private dock may not extend in total linear measurement of all walkways, ramps, floats, distance to tie up pilings, more than 1.5 times maximum offshore distance. Maximum offshore distance 43.5, so it's 65.5 feet, or 65 feet.
That maximum offshore distance.
Depends where you measure it from.
Exactly.
where.
Is that against the
High tide, low
50%
tide?
or
No, maximum offshore distance is the maximum length the dock is permitted to have. This is why we cleaned it up in the new code, but the maximum length the dock is permitted to have. And in this case, you get that maximum length from the prior section, which says the maximum length could be 43.5 feet.
I think under two, it says there's 100-foot offshore from mean high water, which I think is, so I think for the purposes
code,
here,
it's-
I would assess it from mean high water, saying the length, we don't want a 100-foot dock from mean high water. So I guess I would say, look at the dock at 67 feet from mean high water, 150% of that distance at 67 is how I would. That's how I
Well,
would-
you can go out 100 feet, but the maximum length that this particular dock can be is dictated by the prior paragraph, which says 43 and a half feet. When you do the measure of, because otherwise you could have, if you went 100 foot, you'd have places where the dock would touch the shoreline across the way.
Well, there are other rules that
No, but I'm-
that, right?
This, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the other rule.
There's
It's
the
not,
15% navigable one, right? There's
Well,
all
that's-
sorts of other ones, right?
that's what I'm saying, is the 15% rule dictates how long the dock can be in that particular location, and the length is 43 and a half feet.
From where?
Yeah.
From mean high, from. I mean, if you're measuring the navigable water from mean low water, it should be how much the dock extends past mean low water
Right.
for the 15%. If you're saying that's the space you need to be not less than 15, or not more than 15%, you should measure it from the same thing.
Yeah, the way I interpret the length of the dock, based on the different provisions, the length of the dock is from mean high water. But then you're measuring the constriction of the
This is about
channel.
the 15%.
I mean, lower, yeah, exactly. 15% is the constriction of the channel. The length of the dock, I would consider to be from mean high water. So I would say that from these drawings, that it's 67 feet. That I would, because they say 67 feet from mean high water to the end of the dock.
Because if not, like, if you went over vegetation and stuff, all that would count, right? Which would make it kind of crazy, right?
Just for, yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of interpret, yeah.
That makes no sense.
The length of dock is mean high water to end of dock, but I agree that the mean low water is about the constraint on the channel. That's how it's interpreted.
And this type of discussion is why we redrafted this section of the code. So, it probably makes most sense to read it in its most liberal interpretation, to permit what's applied for. So under that measurement, it would be 100 feet.
105 feet. 100.
And the dock is 83, so it conforms there. And under the other, it's 43, and it just it's right there. So it looks all right.
It's all right.
Took a long way to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's down a bumpy road.
Okay.
Ready to vote? Do we formally?
Yes.
Yeah, Al?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom? I'm good.
Yeah.
6-0 in favor. Yeah. Night to make mistakes. Landfall properties. Straightforward.
Where this is, but Clark, so.
Oh, yeah.
Down in the shower.
Mhm. Oh, you look at the same one?
This is,
Oh, Sarver?
By Taylor?
that's,
Oh,
that's Clark's old
Okay,
homestead.
okay.
All right, this one's very straightforward. In Campos Harbor, 100-foot dock. Just a fixed dock, no float, no splashboards.
Says it's for kayaks and whatever.
Well, it only goes to 2 feet. That's the only issue with it. The only problem I would have with it goes to 2 feet instead of 2.5 feet.
This is also on old code, right?
Yep. This is also the old code. Even though the DEC specifically states that floating and fixed docks should go to 2.5 feet, which I don't know why they are constantly approving these things when they go to only 2 feet. But I personally would go with, I assume everyone else probably go the other way, but I would personally, just to keep on track with where I've always been on this, would be against this because it only goes to 2 feet. I don't know why they don't enforce that. It's in their own code. But anyway, anyone see any other issues with this?
It says it's for kayaking, non-motorized use.
That's what it says
Where does it say?
on the DEC stuff.
On the plans.
Yeah,
It says the note on the
the
elevation
proposed-
and the plan.
yeah,
It says no appears for kayak, non-motorized access.
Right here.
It's interesting because then it's not mentioned in the permit,
It's in the text, it's not.
in the text.
Yeah.
Which others we've seen have, and others that we've seen haven't.
Yeah,
We've seen both.
which we can talk about now. I wanted to reach out to DEC to clarify why, how they, I mean, it's not specific to this one.
No, Fagan and I, we got clarification, so of the wording, which is similar wording, because in the DEC permit,
Right.
it does say the use of the structure on, the special condition number 15, that it can't be motorized vessels on there. And it's very similar to the wording that was used in the Fagan application, and the DEC did clarify that by email, their wording. So I think that's covers, that's just a blanket, the way they word things.
Right. I mean, I'd like to understand from them, like, have that conversation as sort of formally, because I agree, they responded on the specifics of the Fagan, but that's sort of separate, but I think it would be helpful to know if there are, these kayak specific docks where they're actually putting that restriction in, why are they going to 2 feet? Why, 2.5? And there's sort of there's that discrepancy that, not specific to any of these applications individually. I'd like to know as a committee or as a committee member, what are they doing? What's the rationale behind that? So we understand it.
Yeah.
That, for me, that's what I would like to know. But I agree that they clarified that, and that was helpful.
Yeah.
Do the clarifications include non-motorized vessels?
Yeah, they basically clarify what those two, in Fagan last month, there was 2 conditions that something went vague. And they, in an email, clarified what those conditions meant.
So basically, yeah, I was, it says Fagan again. It said no vessels, maybe launched at all, full stop. They responded and basically clarified that they were saying it's okay for kayaks and non-motorized vessels for their purposes were not considered vessels for the dock.
To be launched. So clarifying that we could launch from the dock.
Yeah, they said, yeah, you can launch a kayak from the dock. So the blanket, prohibition on vessels did not cover kayaks. They did say this dock can't have no motorized vehicles.
Those terms are all sorts of misleading in different scenarios. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's sort of, so yeah, so they said no motorized, similar to this. So it's basically the same conditions as this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you suggesting you want to go back and clarify this one with the DEC before we move forward on it, or?
No, it's just, I don't understand the logic behind it.
Yeah.
They've already clarified as much. I mean, I think it's more of a.
What logic? Sorry.
Yeah.
What logic?
That's my
clarification.
Well, they're saying, it's basically getting to 2 feet, and then you can't actually use it for motorized vessels. So then why specifically do you need to get that deep for
For something that draws inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sort of like what their rationale is, because they seem to be, it seems to be 2 feet that they want to get to, that seems to be approved, and yet they're saying you can't have any motorized vehicle there, you can always put a kayak.
In this one, the application actually said, so.
Yeah, yeah, so it's just,
So what, question, that's in perpetuity, that no motorized vessels can be on that dock?
that's the DC's condition.
So there,
DEC's condition, okay, so a covenant would be put on that dock in essence.
Well, the language will be in the permit.
so can I ask, like, why do we have dolphins for a kayak dock?
Is there dolphins? No.
Well, that's a neighbor's dock, right? Is the neighbor's dock? I apologize. I think I may be missing.
Yeah, the neighbor's dog
Sorry.
has island.
I made a quick judgment based on something that's not relevant.
Okay,
Now, is this dock, this is already at its 100-foot maximum from the shoreline, is that what I'm understanding?
it is, yes,
That's why you didn't go the extra to get the 2.5 feet.
it is, yes.
Anyone else have a comment on, or can they vote? Al?
Good,
You good with it as it's written with?
this is written.
That's right. Good, yeah.
I think it complies. I would just like to see it, the town permits also reflect the non-motorized provision as well.
So can I ask, I'm sorry, Visual, how does this get like policed?
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know if you're looking down the shoreline, it's gonna look any different than any other dock.
Yeah.
So,
Like, I mean, it's not very different than the neighbor's dock, which has a boat on it. And I happen to know that neighbor. They're gonna look almost identical, but one's okay for a motorboat and the one's not.
it's complaint driven, Scott.
Okay, and that's fine.
It's somebody who's gonna, it promotes neighbor dispute, is what it is.
I'm just gonna I wanna understand like how this is gonna impact you and
Yeah,
that sort
so
of exchange.
without there being specific provisions within the town permit, it remains an enforceable state level issue,
Yeah,
right? So in the absence of something clearly bringing that in, or the state permit clearly stating it, like in the discussion last month about the upcoming discussion. Yeah, if there is no town-related provision regulating whatever that is, then we just simply kick it up.
and then just to be clear, this is a motorized vessel at all or for overnight, for mooring? As we discussed previously.
This is
Like you couldn't even bring your dinghy into this dock for a moment. Technically, that would be in violation of it.
at all. It says access.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I just didn't see the
Be
wording.
clear about mooring, and then maintenance, and here it's access.
Because we discussed a whole different statement with the previous one. Yeah.
Great.
So, but by putting it in the town permit, that it.
It falls back into our jurisdiction. Right, meaning the building department, right? I field the request and I kick it to the building department. But the only way that that's policed,
Yeah,
right,
right.
Thing.
is
Right.
complaint response.
I mean, it's like we're having a whole different
There's no
conversation.
possible way, like, we're not driving around, cruising around looking to be like, well, there's a boat on that dock. I mean, look up a permit from 1963 and see if that's working allowed or not. It doesn't happen now,
Yeah.
right? It just, we can't. There's no possible.
All right, so just to clarify, when you say as written, so the town permit would state no motorized vessel can be maintained at this dock
Access. Says access.
in access.
But again, that's the.
Right.
That's the language in so we would adopt the DEC's language in our town permit. Is that what you're voting yes on?
That's what I'm voting for what they asked for.
And that's, okay. Matt, you too? Good?
Yeah, yep,
Um,
gotta include that into the town permit, yeah.
Okay, I'm still a no because I agree with Paul. This creates, it's like your neighbor has to police you. It creates problems. I think they shouldn't even permit these, but you're,
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
you're
yes.
yes with the,
As long as it's
the language.
outlined, yeah, specifically for this, yeah.
Okay, so 5-4 with that proviso that the town permit reflect the DEC language and 1 against.
Good luck, Phil.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what it appears,
I don't see why we
these new docks are in it 2 foot.
No, I agree.
Yeah, but I do agree. I think this is a can of
I
worms.
think what we're gonna have to do is require one red pipe, no.
It's funny, that's what I was gonna say. You just paint that board at the end a certain color.
Marked, and then it's
Yeah.
done. Or it's
I
clear.
mean, that's clearer. hypothetically, that is a potential way, like, I don't actually support that, but there's a way, right?
We'll call it Bo's way. Yeah.
Bose law?
I don't
Bo's
support
law.
Or Scarlet letter.
It's words, his words.
Yeah.
All right, we are up to old business, which is Fagan, which I recused myself from last time, and will recuse myself from this time. So I'm out of here. Shall we done? Happy.
Okay.
So I think, right, the big thing from last month was clearing up, clarifying the DEC's 2 conditions.
Right.
And you received that email, and I think both were clarified
Yes.
to what Jack was saying in last meeting.
Yeah.
No?
They clarified it.
Yeah.
He disagreed.
Oh.
Yeah, so they clarified that it's yes, that kayaks and non-motorized vessels
Okay,
could be launched and whatever.
right.
But it did say that there was provision on maintenance of a vessel, a motorized vessel at the dock, which is what I was saying. So they said you can't have a motorized vessel there moored, maintained. So that's meaning maintaining it over a tide cycle.
Right, okay.
But it would allow access, which is different
Than
than
the-
the one we just had.
How are those different, or is that the whole
So
question?
basically, well, Al was talking about, he wanted to be able to go from his place over to Fagan
Right.
by boat. So provided that he's not gonna bottom out, he can go in, hang out for an hour, but he can't maintain the boat there over a tide cycle, because then that's a different situation. So you're going in, it's high tide, you go in, go out. This is me
That is dissimilar from what we just talked
to
about.
try and make sense out of what they're saying.
Right, I mean, but that nuanced difference is the whole picture, right?
No, but they can't keep it, so you couldn't, for instance, the boat that they were, that they were proposing to keep there can't be kept there.
Right.
But if somebody wants to go in at high tide and pull up to the dock, go in, have lunch, whatever, go back out, then that would be okay according to what my interpretation of what they've said in their email back.
Didn't we just discuss this one as different than that, or did I misunderstand that?
Exactly.
Okay,
That's-
got it, okay.
So that's why.
It's very similar, but
Dissimilar in a very specific.
access is the.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying I'd like to have a back and forth with DEC about what exactly are they doing with each individual permit, because they're coming back and saying it's standard, but it ain't standard. It's not standard, and that's the point, of creating this confusion.
Good luck.
These filings will be painted pink.
Right, sometimes allow.
Right. So anyway, so I think, so they clarified that. So they said, yes, yes to kayak launch, no to motorized maintenance at the dock. So I think we're with those sort of provisions. I still, I said last time, I don't think there should be a dock in this location in Dickerson Creek. So, I mean, but they've clarified those issues. I think that's helpful for other people who might feel differently than I do. But, so I need to go through the whole thing. Does anybody want to have James wasn't here last time, so maybe
I watched
you
it.
want to share.
I watched it.
Okay.
Ingrid knows that I'm not enamored with docks in Dickerson Creek. So I probably just abstain from this and stay out of it.
Skylar, you want to?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a little clarity here. Why doesn't the previous doc we discussed have a similar right to this one? Like where they can have this, temporary boat at the dock? Like, why is that?
They didn't ask for it in their permit.
Right.
They said specifically in the permit.
So they could get more if they asked for it, but they just didn't ask. Is that what we're saying?
I suppose.
It could very well be.
Could be. I mean, maybe that's all he wants to do.
It's unfortunate to limit them.
I don't know what's.
If we're gonna grant this to someone, and I'm all about it. If it's allowed, it's allowed, is my feeling, but
The guy who applied for
it
it.
sounds like the same thing but different, which doesn't seem right to me, but
That's
not really what we're asking.
DEC's not like a board,
Yeah,
you know, it's not like a bunch of people around the table, you're dealing with one person.
I would just
And then
imagine-
You're dealing with this person over here, so this person might have a different opinion than.
I just figured it would be like, this is the designation of dock, it carries these rules, which sounds like we have.
I mean, they're saying the same thing, but not in the same room.
But if you're getting casual emails, just, describing details of this, then this seems more free for all than I'm giving credit.
That email was not easy to get.
No, but if it's explained in an email and not an addendum or an appendix or something like that, it's freestyle.
Well, it's basically like, this is how we write our conditions.
Yeah.
And trying to get us to change that, but we'll clarify it by email.
I agree. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true. It's, very much dependent on the way the application was written, and it's in the plans that they put in order to get that permit back out from the DEC. So, but I think that there are somewhere deep in the depths of DEC, they created some kind of design plan for a kayak dock. And that kind of spread and changed. Went through this last time. Somewhere in that bureaucracy, something's happened there because they changed their language in response to that. Don't know how it ends up coming back out is this bit free-form thing because it's not really clear and it's been modified and sort of changed over time. That's my, having been a former bureaucrat, opinion about how that sort of happened.
Yeah.
Which way I think would help, again, having that clear conversation about what they mean by access.
Who are you gonna have it with, though?
Well,
It sounds like there's many entities as.
Dealer's choice, right?
you just go up.
I mean, these people are making determinations sort of on their own.
You have it with you push it up the chain, so like there's the person at the top, Mary McKinnon, or whomever, who's making that determination, and then it passes back down to the analyst at the other end. That's how I proposed
The
the
progress.
theoretical solution. So,
In any case, we're at this.
anybody,
Sure.
anybody else want to comment, or are you finished with your?
I mean, I don't love throwing docks there, but I don't see how it isn't okay with the rules in front of us, so I think I'm in favor of it.
I'm still a no on this. I don't think that docks should be built at Dickinson Creek there.
I'm still a no on building in Dickerson Creek as well. But I thank you for getting clarification. I do appreciate it.
I'm okay with it, okay? There are 4 other docks in there.
Yeah. Can I just ask why you feel differently about this one versus like the town one? It seems.
So I think that whole area, I think there's the area right by the
Or it's
by
just
bulkhead.
deeper.
It's deeper, it's right by and so I think it's dredged up to that point. I think the rest of the creek is not really, I don't
If it was
consider it
just
navigable.
kayak, but the kayak it is navigable, right? I'm just trying to get your opinion.
For a kayak, I think it's navigable for a kayak, and I'm thinking, I don't think you need a dock for a kayak. I think in my view, the weight, the desire to have the dock for the purposes of putting a kayak in,
Yeah,
which I think it's a poor solution for that purpose,
yeah.
doesn't outweigh the town's interest, general interest, and my interest in having that area remain clear of docks. I think it's a balancing thing, and I think I agree that they've met some of those specific, or they've gotten themselves over those different constraints that are specifically outlined in the code. I believe under 5319, the town has the final say of what that balance is. And they can say, yeah, you did that, but we have these other balances, these other values, whether it's neighbors like Tim Pertel in Heights, or the interest of, other kayakers that want to kayak through and they're going along the shore and all of a sudden they've got to bounce out around that dock. So I do think it's.
Yeah, it's understandable, yeah.
My name is Ingrid Fagan. I'm the owner of this house. We've had a place on Shelter Island since 1959, so that's before I was born. We live here full-time on Dickerson Creek. As far as the navigable waters, people go all the way through, all the way to the other end. You've seen the map of Dickerson Creek, and most of it is just field and not developed. Most of Dickerson Creek is not developed. We have a little sliver here with some houses. I have a dock next to me. And then there's the police dock, the town dock. Then there's the bulkhead, the big bulkhead where they're talking about putting some commercial boats most of the year. And I feel like I'm just so understanding of whatever's going on, I want everybody to be happy. My uncle was a very famous scientist. We went, spent our entire lives trying to preserve the land. We let biologists come to our property, the cottage. It's something we've always tried to do. We're not trying to hurt anybody. The DEC originally, when we spoke to them several years ago, said, you know, you really should. You should get it. You should get a dock. You should get. There's no problem there. Now we understand that's changed since then, and that's okay. Even with the current code, before code, we're not able to get what we thought we could, and I understand because that's what was decided. But I just hope that, you know, I think in terms of the future, this is all being evaluated on the old code. I'm the only one in Dickerson Creek that has applied several years ago, or whatever it was, a year and a half ago. So there won't be more. And, you know, I know I don't know you, but I know one of my best friends is a good friend of yours, Deno.
Yeah.
So in Shelter Island, you grow up here, you know everybody. Like, you know, I know James, he lives across the street from me. I want to be a good neighbor. I try to volunteer with everything. I have Bo, who's going to be looking straight at me all the time. His police boat is looking right at me. It's not like I can do something against the law. I don't want to do anything against the law. I've done things that are ignorant of the law, but once I've been told that that's what it is, I've changed immediately. Like, I don't want to. So I just appealing to you and if I'm here to ask if you have any questions for me in terms of, you know, I have 3 daughters. We're here all the time. We love the summer.
Out of curiosity, how long has your neighbor had the dock? Is that relevant? Can I ask that?
The neighbors had the dock for a long time.
All right, but like it's not like 10 years old. It's like
No.
50 years old.
It
No.
predates the dot code.
Okay.
Yes.
The original.
Yes.
That's what I'm wondering if it's under the same
Yes,
code
no.
or not.
But as I said, there's people who have all the way at the end where you can see coming out. There's people that have different kinds of, I've never checked them out, some kind of crab traps or whatever it is. People go with their boats all the time and check their traps. It's not like it's not navigable. I mean, people are smart. If it's a low tide, you're not going. But they're going all the time with motorboats. Like, all the time. It's Dickerson Creek. We have only a few houses on there. I don't see anybody in terms of like the beauty of Dickerson. I would hate to be the person that, oh, you destroyed the view of Dickerson Creek. That's not me. But most people who come down, they walk their dogs at 4:30. I see them. I know everybody. I mean, it's not. If you're going from the highway area, most of the area, you're not going to see the dock. You know, you can't see the dock from your house. I hope that you would pass it because, as I said, it's smaller. It's not to be used for what I thought it was. And, you know, so we had to think long and hard. Do you still want to spend all that money to get it? I understand, you know, but we would like to still do it, even knowing full well what it is. So if you have any questions for me, I'd love to try to answer them. I mean, you don't have to worry about policing. He's there.
I think the biggest thing is that there is such a lush vegetative fringe there that the purpose of this dock is to get over that fringe, because otherwise she's going to be trampling. And you can't prevent a family from going into the water and trampling that vegetation. And I've seen it. I mean, people, it's not even trampling. They will rip out and make themselves a 4-foot path. And then all of a sudden the kayaks all of a sudden the wetlands are retreating because of just human stomping the wetlands.
Yeah.
So this dock is specifically designed, that's why it goes up over the wetlands and then comes down. And then we we went to the full extent of the 100 feet, which is town code, to get to the water. But the vegetation, as you go, vegetation needs sunlight to thrive. And so the deeper the water, the less there's vegetation, right? And so that is the whole concern about motorized boats and everything, because the more shallow the water, even 2 feet of water, they feel like there's an opportunity for vegetation to thrive. You hit, for whatever reason, the magic number of 2.5 feet, 3 feet, the sunlight just can't penetrate through the water itself. So you gotta take that into consideration, and then our basic riparian rights. So I get like these kayaks have to kind of avoid this dock structure, but her parent rights kind of supersede that, to be honest with you. I mean, there's plenty of legislature that you can look into that will support that.
And it's pretty wide, I mean, no,
Yeah,
other than
it's
my
not
neighbor
easy.
on the other side, the Hagglers, they kayak, but they kayak to my house, they kayak with us, they won't be upset by it. And not to say that they're gonna live there forever, but when I did speak on the phone several times with the DEC, and they thought that as she said, having the dock would be better for the environment than not having the dock. Seeing that we do use the water, we swim in there, we swim over to Wade's Beach from our house, paddleboard over to Wade's Beach from our house. We love to use the water, and that's, why we're here.
Is it unlawful to walk through the vegetative stuff to launch a
No.
kayak? Okay, that's a question, I'm not trying to
But as
like,
somebody who's a nature lover, that's my
Right.
whole,
Yeah.
my grandpa was a naturalist, he discovered his own orchid
Yeah.
that had never been discovered in the world, like, we're very, very much, this is our world, that's why.
I just didn't want the argument being like, because these people are breaking, to not break the law, we're gonna build a dock.
No, yeah.
That answer is helpful in my eyes, not, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
general, like,
Yeah.
better for the environment.
Yeah, just trying to do the right thing,
environmentally.
that's all.
No, that's fine, I'm just clarification, sorry.
So if you have any questions, if not, I'll sit down.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It's 2-2, right, an abstention,
Yeah, we don't have any.
and another abstention or recusal.
So we have.
I'm a yes.
You're a yes? No?
No.
No? Yes. James?
You abstained.
Abstained.
Okay, so we're 2-2.
Good luck, guys. Good luck, guys.
Take turns.
Thank you. Thank you, great, appreciate it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you, Jen.
everybody.
Go. Oh, there he is.
Right.
The only other thing coming out of that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the idea about authorizing contact to DEC. We discussed waiting for you to return.
Oh,
Right, we discussed.
yep. Did
I
you,
think
so you didn't,
I think we talked about sort of the confusion, especially about relative to the other. I think it'd be helpful, and I'd like to ask for approval of the committee.
Since I
Reach out to
think,
DC.
since I think those are like more or less the same thing, I feel like we need to come up with a consistent kind of procedure for us, right?
I think we should. I think it would be helpful to talk to DEC about what they mean, if they actually have a different meaning or understanding, like, no, we said access, we said maintenance, we said mooring because of these reasons. We can understand that and then come up with our plan of like, actually, they're the same thing, we don't care. Or they actually are different, we should proceed differently. I think it would be helpful to clarify.
going,
I get that. I think they
If I could, yeah,
probably
I
think that the individuals doing that probably meant the same thing.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, I get the impression that that's the same thing and just different.
They just, the
versions of the
semantics,
same-
and then what the verbiage they use.
Yeah.
It's a big use difference.
but,
Right.
but fortunately, the new code is 2.5 feet. So, when we get 2-foot docks going to 2 feet, they're out. So we're not gonna have this issue. If
These are
someone
the
comes in with
last
a
people squeaking in with the.
yeah, if we get kayak dock applications, and they can call it whatever they want, but if it doesn't reach 2.5 feet, it's not gonna fly.
But that isn't gonna stop the DEC from okaying them anyway.
Right.
No,
But our town can be more
but-
strict than the
we
DC,
can be more
right?
strict. And
And if we are, we are.
Yeah.
if we want to clarify in order, because there'll be people who vote for a 2-foot dock on our committee. If we want to clarify, then we should definitely be permitted by this council to contact them, I think.
We had one approved 2 years ago that was in 0.3 feet of water.
What is this one?
0.3, it was less, it was like 3 inches of water. But the concept
Wasn't
was,
that down in the creek there?
it was down in
That's just
West
watching up
West
the
Neck
beach at
Bay.
that point, isn't
And,
it?
and what it was, and the reason it was approved was exactly what she was just saying, that rather than have people trample, they wanted to have an open grate and be able to still get access to the water. And incidentally, that one didn't even have the restriction of no boats. That number 13 that you brought up, it wasn't even in there. You know, nothing, no restrictions.
That's DEC consistency and why we need to have our own rules. So,
Well, we do now, so, you know.
so is that okay with everyone that we contact the DEC when we get confusing?
Well, I think we should all
Clarification.
begin on what is going to go to the DEC. As far as what the email is going to look like.
Okay.
All right, and then be able to have some comment, and then also,
All right, so we're not gonna wait till a meeting, and people don't read their emails until a couple of days before a meeting in most cases. So if we get one like that and we put a request out, there'll be like respond to this in 3 days or
Right.
we're gonna do
I
it.
think that's fair,
I mean,
ideally.
well, the way that I mean, the reason I brought it up, one, because that's exactly what happened. Sort of this time I sent a note a while back, nobody responded. Actually, well, some people responded, but most people didn't. But I think the way that the town's rules and procedures are written is inconsistent. So, and I talked with the clerks, and so they say for outreach, they have different sort of things. And for outreach to the public, there's sort of one thing, set of rules. There's for outreach to a government agency, it's a different set of rules. And then whatever. So, but it's clear that acting out or reaching out as the committee requires committee vote. But it's also clearly stated in one provision that an individual member for information to carry out their duties on the committee can reach out. But then that's actually countermanded by a different provision that says you can't reach out at all without getting committee approval. I talked to, Christina came back and said, no, that's specifically for a different purpose. And she said, for this purpose, if I'd wanted, and I didn't do this because I think there was concern and we hadn't come to an agreement, I could have reached out to the committee. I sent in a note as an individual and said specifically, I'm not reaching out on behalf of the committee or the town, I'm an individual. And they ended up responding, I think also because the Fagans did as well. But I'm looking for clarification from this committee that basically we can do what Christina said.
What is the purpose of that? Was that made clear to you? Like, they were, you were just saying a second ago, sorry. You said that we were like excluding this one thing because it had a specific purpose that didn't apply to us. Did she explain to you what it was? Like, would it ever apply to us? I guess.
Well, she said, I mean, and I can pull it up, but the different provisions, she's like, this is for specific audiences.
Okay.
And so the specific, I said there's a conflict.
It gets clearer and clearer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's take
So she's like, that wouldn't apply. Because I was like, well, this says I can do it. And this says I can't.
right.
And she's like, oh, well, this one that says you can't, that's not applicable in this situation. I was like, okay, well, that's clear as mud in the way the rules are written.
Right.
And and she's like, yeah, good luck getting that rewritten. Eventually that'll get on the agenda of the board, but it's not going to be anytime soon.
So she didn't explain specifically why not,
No, she's like,
or whatever. We don't have a good
we
understanding.
need to get
of
input.
why. Yeah, okay.
All right, let's just say that whoever drafts emails, is going to ask for comment. And if we don't comment, then it's good to go.
The way it goes, yeah.
so the email, whatever you want to send, or whatever one person wants to send, will go out to everybody before it goes to
Yeah.
some
And
agent.
there's some sort of a drop dead. I mean, I'd like it to be just like you can do it, but that's fine.
I think it's reasonable. You
But
know.
it's an individual, it's not, you're not representing the committee. If you're representing the committee, I totally agree. If you're representing yourself, it's like, I have a question. Do I need to then go to the committee and have the committee vote down me asking a question that I have as a member?
Now I'm confused. Are we sending this as?
How about this? I will draft something for
Okay.
next time.
Yeah, I like
We
that
can,
idea.
we can not.
Okay, we can talk about it, okay.
All right, so, the The other item I want to get into
You
here.
want the agenda? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going off.
Put it away someplace.
Agenda?
Yeah. Next item is
Rules
two
and
items.
regulations.
There it is. So was there a vote on Fagan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2, and 1.
An abstention.
Two, two, and one?
Yeah.
So we hit all the.
We did all the, covered all the bases on
All
that.
right, great. Two, and one. Rules and regulations.
Absence, actually.
Yeah, there
Mark
was
was
abstained.
Mark.
Mark wasn't here.
He wasn't
Yeah,
here.
there was an
Yeah, one absent.
We hit for the cycle.
Yeah.
Other business, rules and regulations for town dock permits. So this is Article 2. This is the thing that Bo wrote up. And I don't know, I have just half a dozen additions that I would make to the language that he has. Has anyone else written out anything in particular that they would want to add to what's here, to what Bo has presented us?
My first question is this, does this go to the town board for a public hearing? Or is this something that just gets passed?
It's by resolution of the town board.
Or is there a public hearing for that?
I don't think so. Not for, I don't think so.
We'd have to check with legal on that.
Okay, all right.
That's true.
Because I think when you're, and another piece that I noticed is the rules and regulations for Dickinson Creek are changing. They're dramatically different than what's been there before. And they are written as though it was always this way. You know, you're including or offering to put in commercial boats for 10 months of the year.
Yeah.
So Bo said when he wrote the rules for Dickerson, I know that he basically copied and pasted from Dearborn Harbor.
Right,
For that.
right. But what he should have done, just procedurally, is written what the existing rules are in black and white or blue,
Just so
and
you're aware of
then a different color for the other thing, so that the town board and the public are aware of what,
This is.
Change.
of what changes,
Yeah.
right? That's, I think, a major piece.
That was part of what was presented to all of us during the whole code. That you have that.
I have it. I do have it. Does the town board have it? Does the
Town board has it, yeah.
About it? They don't, because they can't see the difference between what was and what's being proposed. You with me? What was, or what is right now, is you're allowed to, commercial boats can use the town dock for drop off and pickup
At which location?
at Dickerson
Well, let's,
2 hours.
for 2 hours.
I think Dickerson is strictly 2 hours as of now. That's all.
Right.
2
Well, this is
hours.
the point I was making, is we don't know what the previous one is in comparison to the new one, right?
Yeah.
I know.
We just said it, so now everything else is different.
That's different.
Right.
You definitely need one
Yeah.
and the new.
Yeah.
Old and the
Yeah, I mean-
new side, yes.
Except there was a precedent set by Mal. Remember?
Yeah, and that violated town code because you're not allowed to live on a boat at the town boat.
I don't know if he was living there.
No, he
I don't
wasn't
think-
living there.
He wasn't living there.
He just tied up.
Bo was there for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Well, he's got his own well down there. Yep.
So I think that's a piece.
he's saying, what Bo is saying is that the section pertaining to Dickinson Creek is a completely new thing because it didn't
It
exist.
should have been in blue.
The whole thing should be in blue, is what you're saying.
Right. The whole thing
This
should be in
whole thing.
blue, and what should be in there is what the code said, what the code says now. And I don't even think it's in
What he's saying
53.
is what he's saying is there is nothing now.
Yes, there is.
Well,
There is. It may not be in
I
53.
think it's literally, it's a 2 hour tie-up.
It's a
and
2 hour
That's the
tie-up.
only thing that's listed.
And that's not in 53.
It's probably in 129 or one of the other ones. It might be in it might be in Waterways.
Me tonight, because I have it all in the old code.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I'm aware of it. I know what it is. And I think the town board deserves to be
Should
in on
not be
it
here for this discussion.
because
Well, he
No,
had
you-
to run to another meeting, so basically this will be for him to he can review what the videotape. So he'll
A
have,
full red line copy would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be helpful.
because you.
Do lean a lot.
I mean, the whole thing,
You guys need to know, because somebody's gonna come in and say,
I mean, it's like, just pretend it's red.
Basically say it's all new. Is it?
This is all
it is
new.
new, but what should be, I'm saying, what should be addressed is what is existing now there.
You should have.
I mean,
Well, you should have both.
it's not hard for them to grasp that it's, the only thing that exists is 2 hours.
It's a 2 hour, all right, the only thing that exists is a
That's the full thing.
Right.
So the rest is all new.
No, yeah, but there's 5 people on the board that, there's only two of you here.
okay, so as far as Dickinson Creek, so since we're on the Dickinson Creek one,
Oh, wait. Maybe I have a Condon Creek. One.
Yeah, Condon Creek was first.
Yeah.
I know, but we started with, let me just see if there's,
Okay. But it's not here. I didn't, but I guess I'll address it to the camera then. Hello, Bo. My own question was, what are the concerns? Because they're asking about occupancy and absence. And I was just wondering what the concerns are, like that they have these limits on how long you can be away. Like I said, it's 7 days, twice a year or something like that. What's the concern that's being addressed? Is it like subleasing or?
Maybe it's just being
No, I think
responsible for your own.
People not using it.
People not using it.
Using the space.
It's 130 people on the waiting list.
That's it? I thought it was more.
Maybe it is.
A couple of them died last week.
Yeah, right.
I switched
Right.
X amount of years.
Matt, you're specifically speaking to Dickinson Creek?
I wrote it down as Condon.
Condon Creek.
Condon Creek.
All right, so anything else on Dickinson Creek? Since we started there, let's just wrap up Dickinson. Anything else on Dickinson?
Yeah, I think we should know what the proposed, how many boats, what's the limit on the size of the boats? It should be a lot more specific, it sounds pretty loosey-goosey. And the other thing is, if you're gonna allow people to tie up out along that bulkhead, there should be a provision that the general public should be able to use it as well, or should be in on the lottery to use it as well. It shouldn't, it's town property.
And there should be like restrictions, like you shouldn't be cleaning fish there and stuff.
Right, you shouldn't be cleaning fish there, you shouldn't be storing gear on the shore. There should be a limit to the size of the boats that could be there, the width of the boats that could be there.
So, right, what he's proposing here is that it's strictly for people who have a permit to harvest or sell shellfish.
Right,
Or fish, yeah.
right.
So you're proposing that it be open, so there's a permit, and you're saying that anybody should be able to get a permit there?
Well, if that's, or maybe you want to say you're going to open up 4 areas. I mean, there's a float and then there's a couple of 100 feet of bulkhead. And I know on the CPF property that there would be a lot of objection to berthing any boat there for any length of time. Maybe for a picnic or whatever, but then, how many boats, what's the length? How many permits are going to be available? You want to split it? You want to do 50% for general public, 50% for commercial? You want to have some
The only note I would like to say is that there is a floating dock there. And I strongly believe that floating dock should remain 2 hours. So that you're not.
So you could
even
drop,
someone
pick up and drop off.
I think that should be a
That's
2 hour
like the prime
time.
time spot, right?
And that should also be the same case, all our town docks should have that 2 hour space. That's
2 hour tie-up limit?
Yeah, on the float, yeah.
Going back to kind of the red piling thing, is there any kind of marking, like standardized marking to say, hey, this is a 2 hour 2-hour dock, this is not. This is
I've always seen signage, I mean, in my boating history, but yeah,
It's a little white sign.
yeah.
I don't know what.
I'm not saying here, I'm just saying in general, I've seen signage, yeah.
generally out there. but
I've never seen it
use
consistent either, I've seen it just like
I think-
at any random sign.
Watertown
Yeah.
Dock has a sign, they got the big sign on the end of it.
The one in Deering, is that what you're saying?
Watertown
Yeah,
Dock, That has a big sign on
Okay,
it.
so he copied Dickerson from Deering Harbor.
From Deering Harbor, yeah.
Is there anything that we're saying about Dickerson that should also apply back to Deering Harbor?
Deering?
I would just put in
Where
something-
are you going?
The Deering Harbor Town Dock. He copied Dickerson, there's a copy of Deering, they're the same.
Okay, yeah.
So if you're making these changes for Dickerson, are you suggesting that they should also apply to Deering Harbor, or should be treated differently?
I think you have to treat the crits, town lanes differently, I think.
it's a whole different boating venue.
I don't think there's,
Yeah,
I don't think there's not.
They're not similar enough to
There's
doing that.
there's no facility in the other one.
But Deering Harbors also says that it's for people who have a permit for harvesting or selling shellfish.
See, now, the Deering Harbor, where
It's gotta be
proposed the.
No, they say it says fish.
Shellfish or fish.
With
Fish.
Shellfish or fish.
Yeah.
So you
And
rent
that
and you have to
slip
have a
has
permit.
traditionally been used by a food fisherman, not a shell fisherman. So if you want to open the door to a shell fisherman, then I think that another slip should be created, not take away from the food fisherman that's traditionally there. I don't know how everybody feels that, but if there's
What's the difference between those two? For me?
different licenses,
Okay,
2 different licenses, one's food fish and one's shellfish.
gotcha,
And the food fish license is a lot harder to acquire.
I see.
I thought the Deering Harbor Town Dock, I thought there was a town dock, or maybe I guess that's Pecosi's, where there's a private boat there all the time.
That's the town dock.
That's the town.
But sometimes sometimes he'll cross
It's,
tie Cozy's dock, and I think it's in times when he needs to.
That's,
Right, for storms, I think he will tie across, which I think is like a
Yeah.
general like rule, right? Yeah.
Want to let a boat go on the other side of the dock? Because there's a room on the other side of the dock?
well, I don't think that there's ever been a history of 2 people.
I've never seen anyone use the other side,
I
yeah.
mean, the other side is close to the Pecosi's slip.
No, I mean, if an application, if more than one applicants came forth, there is room
For a second boat.
that timeframe to have a second slip or permit issued there. I just want to make sure that the food fish guy isn't
Displaced, yeah.
It's always been a food fish guy there.
Okay.
And
Since they're the same, then that makes life easier. So it's Congdon Creek, I think, is the one that has, at least I had thoughts on Congdon Creek, specifically language.
The whole thing looks blue to me now.
I don't know, maybe I'll just do this in the email and send it around, might be easier than just trying to read it up, because it's gonna just go in one ear and out the other, but bottom line was on required, as far as the type of vessel, he's just got in here,
On a link.
registration, I was just gonna add, documentation, and it's gotta be in the applicant's name. If the applicant is an entity, that the documentation identify the natural person owner. We have that all over the place in code. And the permit issuance where he says, no permit shall be issued to an applicant who owns waterfront property.
I think that should go out the window.
yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a huge waiting, his rationale, which I think he included in here, but his rationale is that there's a long waiting list. So if you have, it shouldn't be waterfront property, it should be, you have a dock,
Yeah, I agree.
Plenty of people have waterfront property and no dock.
Right.
Right.
So what and
Mooring or dock?
It's hard, because like, what if your dock is like something that looks like this kayak dock? You know?
But that's,
Right,
okay,
right,
so then maybe you
right.
shouldn't put it in.
no,
You want-
You bought the property with it, you know?
so
Whatever, I
to
mean,
address those issues, what I suggested was that with a dock in navigable water at the time of their permit issuance. So it's got to be,
I mean, yeah.
I think it's too much, it's gonna do nothing but be divisive,
well, but I mean, if you have a dock,
right?
then
Okay, and then the next thing that people are gonna say, well, if you're doing it at Congdon Dock, you better do it at Silver Beach Lagoon. And then it's
that, when's a mooring and when's a dock?
We've done the analogies in the past, and people are gonna do the same thing. Leave it out, there's no reason for it to be in. I mean, there aren't that, how many people are on the waiting list that actually?
I have no idea.
There's maybe 2 or 3, and we've already heard from 1 or 2 of them that I plan on selling the house.
One who mentioned, say, I plan on selling the house with the dock and moving in interior land, so I'd like to have a dock at, so that's why I said at the time of issuance, that you don't have a dock. And the other one has a dock that can't be used, it's inside Gardner's Creek.
Right.
Peconic Avenue.
Right, so then how many people that have a dock are also, I think, you know, it's.
Then
Well, I mean, does that make sense to other people? Leave it out? I mean, shouldn't,
Sorry, I think if, you know, Concord Creek is, you know, and I guess the other locations, they're really constrained resources, right? Lots of people want it. If you have another reasonable option, pick up the other spot that everybody sees that it's so overwhelmed with interest. It's not, you know, it's.
You think that's a common courtesy we should expect from people, or you think we need to define that with words?
Well, I think we should
define it with words.
Apparently, yes, we need to define it. I think apparently we need to define it with words. I mean, it's sort of like, here's a common resource. You have another option, use the other option. If you don't, you know, we could put in, if your other option for whatever reason doesn't work, then apply for special permission, be like, hey,
Or just,
my dock burned down or whatever I need.
Right.
But I think your point about the time of issuance is helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's reasonable.
I don't have a problem with putting in, you know, a dock in navigable water, a usable dock in navigable water, you know, that's suitable for the purposes of this boat, of the boat that you have, that you're trying to, you know, like, yeah, maybe your dinghy can get to your dock, the dock that you have, but not the boat that you need to, you know, moor somewhere.
It's,
I don't know.
First, these are regulations, right? So, I mean, one of the things about, was the benefit was that they can be changed more easily in response to need in the community, you know? So that's why Bo was talking about in the first place. It's not in the legislation, it's,
Right.
you can respond more easily. So maybe if it's not an issue.
You could put those with waterfront property
The viable.
will be, you know, upon, you know, the time that their name comes up, they'll be viewed as a case-by-case basis. If they have something with, you know, that's obviously a navigable place that, you know, is protected, that they keep a boat, then maybe not. You know, that person thought he was gonna sell his house, didn't sell his house, you know?
For the ad hoc. Well, all right, let's that'll get kicked around a bit.
but if you have a place that you can keep a boat at your house, why would you, you know,
Maybe your house.
would you be interested?
Maybe you want a place on the other side of the island. So
Yeah,
you
but you
can,
have to use it. I mean, the rules are now that it has to be used for, you know.
I know, but maybe you have 2 boats.
Yeah.
Or even worse, 3 boats, or 4 boats.
Or, okay,
I didn't even want to go there.
all right.
But you want to have a contest?
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying, I could see how
I could
it
see
could,
how somebody
you know,
would
like,
want-
you know, there was a certain person who had mooring, you know, different moorings in different places, you know, and he would,
Right.
you know, he had them because of that, you know, just
Wants to
the
go on that
access.
Side of the island.
Just see if I have any, let me get the hell out of here.
All the gas will save.
Yeah, that's what he was thinking, I'm sure.
So,
In time.
You also had on here, a change. A change of vessel should, pose occupancy issues. I wanted to ask him what he meant exactly by that. Should the tenancy terminate with vessel change? I mean, if you have a slip of Congan Creek and you buy a new
Well,
boat,
if you buy a boat that's out of the parameters of the size that's allowed,
well, that makes,
Well, yeah.
yeah, you're out.
then you're out.
I know, but if you buy, you got the 32-footer in it or whatever fits down there, and then you get a new boat, I mean,
31 feet.
You should be able to bring the paperwork up and say, I want to.
I don't think
But I think all he's asking for is you notice people, so that people don't have that odd boat there that they don't.
like, they have no record of.
Right.
That's pretty reasonable.
With the length of time that waiting list,
Yeah.
people are waiting, they might go through quite a few boats.
Go through a couple of boats, yeah.
yeah.
100 what? 20 years, what was it?
120, I think it's 130 people. Which is a generational waiting list.
Dock that he didn't have in there was the section on here we go again, the 2-hour tie-up at the end of the dock was omitted from this draft proposal or whatever. I'd like to see that thing stays in there.
Is that not where they moor the police boat?
That's where the police boat commandeered the 2-hour tie-up. So that's what happened there.
Okay, because I saw it down there. I thought that was like its spot, but I guess that's not really what it's meant for.
Well, that's originally, it was a 2-hour tie-up at the end.
Yeah.
And then a police boat with good cause to save town money
Right.
took them out of the marina and another marina and.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think that there's a way, I've talked about it before, where we gotta return that 2-hour tie-up at the end of that dock.
Yeah, the float is still there.
Yeah, well, if you added one more float, the police boat could have a chained off one and you'd have the 2-hour tie-up back up. It's fairly simple fix. I've actually spoken to Amber about it. She was gonna find out how it happens, where the money comes from, or whoever pays, whatever, but I just want to make sure that isn't omitted and this is now the new norm.
Do people need to show like proof of insurance and stuff like that if they're on the town dock?
Yes.
I mean, because the dock's worth a lot more than most of the boats.
The dock is paid for.
I mean, I don't mean, but, I'm just saying, like, if someone falls or someone crashes into the dock,
No, that's a good point.
I mean,
Good point.
If cable broke.
Reasonable at a
Bad timing.
I mean,
Oh, no. The wait list, I mean, in the event that there are more applicants than available spaces, a wait list will be established. So the administration of such wait list shall be subject to the policy and procedures developed by the Waterway, by us. Wait lists are such a hot item, but they, the way they were, remember Dottie going back to this book? I mean, oh my God. So yeah, we should establish how to manage wait lists. I mean, first come, first served. There's got to be.
Is that for us to come up with, or?
Yeah, I mean, something that.
And us to consult, or have to own that? Do we have to own that?
To maintain the wait list, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't assume
get on the wait list.
Yeah, but I think it's more of a monitoring to make sure.
Does it cost to be on the wait list?
No, there's no cost, but I think that there's some sort
There's
of.
a cost to be on the Deering Harbor wait list. It's boring.
there was a cost.
That's what there was too.
It's $20 a year
I thought
to
it was
be on the
something,
Deering Harbor wait list.
yeah, pretty humble, yeah.
Oh, for a mooring.
Yeah, what's the difference? I mean,
Well, yeah, I don't know.
With that
I was
wait list, they
never-
could fund the
I was
whole
on
town
wait list
government.
for a while at town dock, and I never paid for it, I just, I was a number and a name.
All right, wait list, that's another hottie. So and then right of survivorship. If permittee dies, the permit for that slip may be transferred
grandchild be able to use.
Yeah, exactly. Reasonable, you know.
to a surviving spouse, providing they must meet all requirements of this chapter. I I would think that a spouse is one thing, but I would think for a commercial fisherman, if you've got a child who's a licensed commercial fisherman, that would be something we'd want to continue.
Is there a way to ensure the slip itself retains a commercial
Like designation.
designation
Boom.
versus handing like, there's X amount of commercial slips versus, okay, now you've passed away and your wife is gonna take over the boat to slip commercial operation.
No, you're getting into too much regulation here. I think
Yeah, I don't know what
you know, say it's either the wife or, you know, a child, offspring, you know, and what they do is their business. You know, if they so choose to, you know, yeah, I'll take Pop's slip, you know. Too bad he didn't make it another 2 months.
Well, I think that
I think when you get then you can open up a whole thing.
So are we, and do you think it makes sense to expand it beyond the spouse? And
Yeah, I mean, maybe a child, you know.
Well, if you go down.
Be anybody.
That's true, that's not.
If you go down to a child, so to speak, versus the spouse, that will, I think that kind of hints at holding the slip in the family perpetuity.
Well,
I think that's what he was trying.
right, and that's why I thought you limit it to just if
the
it's
spouse, I would
a commercial fisher person, but, so it should be
Well,
adult child at least.
The way the commercial fishing permit is upon, I can't sell it, I can't give it away. When I die, it is willed to my spouse or my brother. And then that individual can dispose of the permit.
Brother-in-law.
So it's,
Jesus, where
yeah,
is that?
it's either wife, when it's commercial fishing permit, it's the wife or the son, immediate, son or daughter.
I think we're getting too minutia here.
Yeah.
No, I'm just giving an example of how that works in the commercial aspect, like, you wouldn't be able to, how should I say it, you wouldn't be able to, a cousin wouldn't be able to take the slip.
Yeah, no, it's
It's a very
same line of,
specific as to who can inherit the.
all right, well, that gives him some stuff to think about. I think the last item on here, the new dock application, I mean, my only comment was that I thought, given the design criteria, it might make sense to have two separate applications, one for commercial, one for private. But beyond that, it just seems, instead of having the entire code written out on the application, which is, even when you've read it a number of times, to read that on an application, it's like, oh my God. Just to have a checklist. And that's really just sort of a ministerial, someone just pulling out each line of the code and just saying, provide this, provide this, provide this, provide this. I don't know if anyone else had any other thoughts.
I think that's reasonable.
Make it simpler, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that the cost of the work is absolutely irrelevant, has nothing to do with the way we judge the project, unless it's unless it's, you wanted to say, is the job less than or more than $10,000? I mean, that's the only question that's valid as far as the cost goes. And that just got dumped in there recently when you guys started
Piling.
suggested charging for pilings. That was when that came in there. I mean, this thing has changed 3 times in the last year. One was, there used to be a question, how many pilings? Now it's what's the cost? But that was, the concept was you were charging different rates for different docks, different size docks.
That should be actually just a check in the box, does this exceed $10,000 or not?
Right, and if it doesn't, you should give the town clerk should give the application back to the person and say, have a great day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, because really it's that $10,000 threshold, that's, and
Right.
that's as simple as yes or no.
Okay? Any other thoughts? No? Want to go home?
You know, Bill, I'd like to ask for a couple of minutes of an executive session at the end of this, where they turn the tapes off, and I'd just like to clear the air about some things. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I mean, I don't think this shouldn't go on any longer.
It shouldn't go on.
There's some.
The meeting shouldn't go on any longer.
Meetings, you know, well.
I mean, is it pressing? Is it going to make a difference about
I think it's, yeah, it's gonna make a difference.
you personally, but to the rest of us, is it going to make a difference? Because I really don't want to be here any longer. And you brought up the issue, and I said to you, let's talk at the next meeting, because you brought it up the last minute before the meeting. If you had brought it up earlier, it would have been on the agenda.
I'm sorry. I did bring it up earlier. I brought it up in an email, and I asked for, I did ask to speak to everybody.
I mean,
About-
just the agenda
If
thing.
you don't
I
want
mean,
to stay, don't stay, but I'd like to at least.
Agendas can be amended too,
Right.
you know?
All right, let's do it. You got
Let's get it over
8
with.
o'clock and we're out of here.
That's the boil, come
We
on.
need to kill the tape, please.